is being picked up quite a bit. It's spreading, and it's getting to be a bigger kind of discussion that's going on globally. And I don't mean that in a pun. So we just got a few announcements that we're going to go over first. Remember that on April the 24th at 6 o'clock, we will be having Matt Dillahunty come, and he will be having a discussion with Inspiring Philosophy. And if you haven't seen Inspiring Philosophy yet, go check his channel out. He was on last night for a discussion with us on the, I will not say hysterectomy of
the H word.
Time.
Just say the H word.
Hysterosity.
Hysterectomy of Jesus.
Yeah. I made that mistake one time. Jesus did not have a hysterectomy. But that was a really
Depends
good
what gospel you read.
Yeah, that was a really good conversation. So he will be actually the one that will be having a discussion with Matt Dillahunty, and that will be on the topic, is religion a positive influence on society today? This week we have on Wednesday a debate between Skylar Fiction and Dustin, who is a student of philosophy. They will also be having kind of a similar discussion on the same topic. And then on Thursday, we'll be joined by King Crocoduck at 8 o'clock for a discussion on SJWs, which is another touchy subject. So it'll be a big week of controversy. So that's always good. At this time, we'll turn it over to Steve, and he'll introduce the topic for tonight and the two lovely ladies that we have joining us. Steve?
Hey, welcome everybody. Tonight we actually have two very diametrically opposite positions, which is going to be quite fascinating to listen to. On one side, we have Debbie D, who has been around the channels promoting her flat Earth position, and on the other side, we have Kirsten B, who is a student of astrophysics, I believe, on her third year, and we're going to try to have somewhat of a dialogue between the two. Obviously, we've seen these conversations digress. We've seen a lot of shit shows develop from this type of dialogue. It might end up that way. Who knows? But I'm hoping more as a science communicator, Kirsten could kind of ask Debbie questions and kind of have a Q&A back and forth, and not this constant over talking and gish galloping. Kind of stay on one focus and talk about flat Earth and why maybe Debbie is a flat Earth and maybe what her evidence is for a flat Earth. So we're going to jump right into this. Kirsten, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself first, and then Debbie can introduce herself.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. I'm Kirsten from Down Under in Australia. Even though it's currently like 9 p.m. for most of you, or evening at the moment, it's a brisk 12 p.m. for us here in Australia, and really hot too. So I'll do my best to try and stay cool for you guys. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you, Debbie, so that we can both have a conversation like adults, you know, talking about things, discussing things, and hopefully not turning into something that will actually blow up. I'm really looking forward to actually having a good conversation with you today, Debbie.
Sure.
Debbie, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of your position on all this?
Yes, my name's Debbie, and I've been on the topic for 3 years, looking at all different sources, all the experiments done, and it's my understanding that this curve is not located yet. The helium model, I think, is incorrect. I think that Copernicus got it wrong. I think the Greeks just were all backwards. Certain things about the model doesn't make sense. The sun looks very close. Doesn't appear to look that big, like the helium model presents it. So yeah, I'm just looking at the evidence out there, and I'm not seeing visual measurable curvature. And all these tests are being done, and there's no evidence of a bail ball.
Debbie, what was it that first kind of made you think? Because you said you've been on the topic for about 3 years. What was it that up until that that 3 year mark, where something happened and you just said, "Wait a minute, the world is not actually a globe"?
Okay, well, in the beginning, I just got onto Google Plus, and I was sort of in the conspiracies, cryptids, UFO, ufology, and then the false flags, and just the corporate corruption, in America. And then I've seen these memes go down the live stream, and Matt bashing NASA, and I didn't really understand it, and so like some of the things didn't make sense of what they were promoting, like space exploration. So I just started to look into it, and so the first person I spoke to was I don't know if you remember Stars or Souls. YouTube channel.
I'm not familiar.
Doesn't strike a chord with me either.
No, he's like, I think he's doing books and TV shows now. He's not really on the YouTube scene anymore. So he was just telling me about the the model and everything, and did some videos on it. So I was thinking, well, maybe then I came across a video that it was a psyops. Um, I don't know. So I left it for a little while, but something like drew me back after I keep seeing more memes, come down the live feed. So I just looked more into it. I dug in further into NASA, their occultic history, all their encoded numbers in the Helio model, and took my research to the beginning of where the Bale ball came from.
So you said
you had
you said you had some questions that you wanted the answers to. Why don't you kind of go ahead and shoot one out to Kirsten, and let's have Kirsten kind of see if she can answer your questions that you had.
Sure. I was looking for some images of the depictions of the Aborigine flat Earth cosmology, or if they have a cosmology depictions, and I couldn't find anything.
Mm-hmm.
So since you're like have ancestry, I'm just curious of are you familiar with Earth cosmology? Do they have one?
Yeah, so that's the basic, like a huge thing about Aboriginal culture. Like one of the main points is that what is on the ground is also in the sky. So it's kind of like that connection with the sky and the earth, and how that makes us work, essentially. So I'm not sure if there's anything about the flat earth in that sort of sense. In, like, for example, one of the things that we use the sky for is to tell us when food is available. So for us, in my country in particular, Wiradjuri, we have this, the Milky Way is, if you use the dark parts of the Milky Way, you can find an image of an emu. And that emu, its position lets us know when is the time to go looking for emu eggs. And that actually links up with the emu cycle and everything. So it's things like that. I'm not sure if it actually links to how the Earth is shaped or anything, to my knowledge yet.
May I interject real
okay.
quick, Debbie, before you answer? I didn't know that, and that's kind of really cool that they were able to that the emu thing with the sky. That's an interesting thing. I had no idea. That's really cool.
It's one of my favorite things to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Debbie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just a while ago looking for some depictions of the Earth cosmology. And it's my understanding that I just came across a PDF, so I'm kind of like looking over that. I'll probably look over more of it tomorrow. That their sun and their moon is like the opposite. The moon is considered the male, and the sun is the female, which is I don't know. It's like kind of opposite of other flat Earth cosmologies, from the ancients. Yeah, and their eclipses. Yeah, it's like the woman or the man chasing the woman or something. I don't know. Yeah, so I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, so one of the concepts as well with talking about eclipses, like these, have you heard of what's called Dreamtime stories?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the reason why I use that term is because that's what white culture call it in here in Australia. It's called the dreaming stories, but it's essentially using the stars and making stories about the stars that also link to physical phenomena and astronomical phenomena as well, not just like teaching a lesson. So in this case with the moon man and the sun woman, they're chasing each other when they come together for an eclipse. That means it's signifying that they've caught up to each other and that sort of stuff. So, but you're right, it is different from other cosmologies where people say that it's the moon's the woman and the sun's the man. So that's one major difference that we have here.
Yeah, I think it's neat. Yeah, their perception was just quite a little bit different than the other ancients. How they describe, they perceive their sun and moon. Yeah.
Even with the differences, there are still similarities as well. Like, do you guys know the Seven Sisters, the star cluster?
Seven Sisters. No, is that the planets or the wandering stars or?
No, so this is a star cluster within our Milky Way. It's like a couple thousand stars. It's also known as the Pleiades in Greek mythology. With this object, we can see it down here in Australia as well. And in some of the stories, they actually depict that as seven sisters as well. So I think it's really cool that people from here in Australia and also in ancient Greece saw the same thing and made the same connections in their stories.
Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, that's interesting that we can all see the same stars.
Yeah.
Well, Debbie, what is it that
Mhm.
what is it that makes you think that the Earth that like we're actually on now is flat, and to kind of talk us through why that would be necessary to be covered up. You know, like if it did turn out to be a flat Earth, why peddle the lie that the Earth is round?
Wow, this is like a deep rabbit hole, and I mean, I would just have to go on and on about it. But to briefly sum it up, it would
Okay.
be to go back in history and look at the influences of Rome and how they changed religion, just converting everybody to Catholicism. And I mean, if everybody knows anything about religion and the Romans and the Vatican, they're the false doctrine, most definitely. The sun worship, it goes all the way back to the paganism and ancient Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
So now the model they have is this, the helium model is the same way. We're tilting on a imaginary pole stick or tilting toward the sun. I mean, it's like bowing to the sun. The Earth is basically they put us bowing to the sun. I mean, it's pagan worship, sun worship ideologies through and through. So
So you would say
um,
it's more of a kind of religious aspect of it. That's what the cover up is about.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's going against what Scripture actually details to be taken literal. I mean, throughout Scripture it talks about the earth is immovable.
Right.
God put us here, for purpose. We're here in an enclosed system. There's nothing leaving Earth and nothing coming in.
Okay. So
Meteors are not hitting anywhere. I haven't seen
sure.
any evidence of it.
So and Kirsten, without I guess the way I want to approach this particular discussion is not so much from I don't want to make it into a religious kind of aspect. So
Hmm.
Kirsten, maybe Kirsten can kind of explain why um, the Earth in the globe sense from a scientific standpoint, and not so much from um, kind of hitting it from the religious end of it. Let's talk about like the evidence that we see for whether it is flat or whether it is kind of the globe model. So Kirsten, why is the Earth a globe? From the scientific evidence, like what is the besides the obvious pictures of space, what are the things that make the Earth round?
Okay. Well, obviously we'll stay away from pictures because there are lots of theories out there that they're
Sure.
photoshopped and all sort of stuff. So, and that's
Sure.
not necessarily it's it's not solid proof with photos because they can be altered and everything like that. But if we think about the evidence that does stand at the moment to like support this theory of the Earth is round, go back to the ancient Greeks. They took two sticks, planted one in the ground where the sun would be overhead, and went a few kilometers north or a few miles north and put another stick down, and at the same time measured where the shadow was at the same time at both of these sites, and measured how long the shadow was, if there was a shadow, if there wasn't a shadow. At the place where the sun was directly overhead the stick, there would obviously be no shadow. But at the other stick, there would actually be a shadow cast, which being on the same longitude of Earth, but different latitude, the sun would still technically be overhead at that same time, but because there was a distinct shadow on the second stick that was a bit further north, then that would provide evidence to that there's actually a round curved Earth.
Okay, and Debbie, how would you respond to that?
I would say that was ancient history. We know we weren't there to see him do these experiments. Now we have flat earthers all around the world just going away with their experiments. They're disproving the globe. You cannot curve water on its surface. Nobody has yet to show me an experiment where they're actually able to curve water on its surface. And if you believe that, what Aristophanes, proved, you're escaping the fact that the governing laws of nature and the way water behaves, it remains level. It finds its level. You cannot curve water on its surface. If you want to, enter gravity into it, you're gonna have to explain to me the cause of gravity, and isolate the cause itself. Because I spoke to NASA and they say they're working on the cause. So why? What's the what's the holdup? Why are they have
Well,
not figured out the cause and isolate the cause?
let's stick
What's
with
the
the
external
experiment she
internal
gave you
force?
first, Debbie. The experiment she
Yeah.
gave you, which is repeatable. Kirsten, that experiment can be explained by a round Earth model, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I think the question would be to Debbie, on a flat Earth model, no matter what the religious overtones, no matter what the conspiracy is, the shadow is going to be a specific thing. So on a flat Earth model, how would that be explained by the results that anybody can do from that experiment?
I just came across a brief video about it. I don't know if Duran even covered this. I think I'm not sure, but it can work also on a flat Earth. So I haven't did the experiment myself. I don't know. I don't know who else has done the
Okay.
experiment, so I'm kind of like neutral on it.
Well, you mentioned gravity. I think that's a good that's maybe a good even ground that it today can be it's talked about a lot too. Kirsten, she brought up gravity. Can you kind of give her the answer to a question that she was just asking about? What was it, Debbie? Remind me one more time.
Yeah, about gravity. It seems like that's the excuse or whatever, how to curve water and hold everything together to the center of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yep. Yep. So
Okay,
I see what you're
so
saying.
yeah, so the boy, yeah, so I'm not understanding like the cause of it. Is it an external or internal force? Is there something like in the Earth that's pulling things to this to the ground, or how is it able to do this tremendous feat of like just balling up water and just holding it all to the middle, just zooming through space? I don't. I mean, I understand how it works with the model, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make common sense. It's not common sense to me. So
Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, well, let's address this then. So essentially, I'm obviously going to talk from a standpoint of the globe Earth, so I hope that's okay. And I'll provide that sort of explanation from a globe sort of point of view. So essentially, when you have gravity, you have to have mass. This pen has gravity, a very small gravity, of course, but it has its own gravitational field around this pen because it has mass. It's a thing that has weight, it has mass. Does that make sense?
so to me it's density, and it's like the mass volume per measured per unit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I guess I don't consider it the weight. It's just the density of the object is heavier than the air that surrounds it. So when you drop it, I mean it just falls. There's like no magical force that's pulling it down to drop. It's just it's heavier than the air that surrounds it, to my understanding, the way it's been taught by flat earthers, which makes more sense.
Okay, fair enough. In this case, when I do drop the pen, what's happening is the Earth and the pen are attracting each other. Just because the Earth is a lot bigger, it appears from our perspective, because we're standing on Earth, or with me, I'm attached to Earth because I'm in Australia, it appears to fall down to the Earth. Yes, the air around it is a lot lighter and the density is a lot lower. So say if I put this onto some really dense liquid, it might float. In that case, that's correct. But in this case, when you do drop something, both things are actually attracted to each other. So the Earth is also attracted to the pen. I agree, it is really weird and hard to wrap your head around. I'm in my 4th degree of university. It's taken me a long time to actually wrap my head around gravity. But to my understanding, that's what it is. It's the attractive force between two objects with mass.
Wouldn't it be? Isn't it true though that you can drop two objects, one heavier than the other at the same time, and they will hit the ground at the same?
Yes, there's a great video. There's a great video with Brian Cox where he did this experiment where when we went to the moon, they dropped a hammer and a feather, and because there's a very, very small atmosphere on the moon, they dropped at the same rate, which kind of necessarily proved the laws of gravity, that it's the attractive force between the two masses, and it's independent of size.
Sure. I think that would answer your question, Debbie, on the the weight and the compared to the air around it. Because if you were to drop two heavy things at the same time, then they're both going to hit the ground at the same point. And if it didn't have gravity involved, I think obviously the heavier object would hit first.
Yeah. So if you get rid of the atmosphere, they'll drop at the same rate.
I don't know about that. I mean, I could take two objects, they won't drop the same. And certainly if I don't see anything where in nature where two objects are, attracted to each other. I mean, they just don't fly to each other. Like I was explaining earlier to someone about, when a skydiver jumps, they can fall at it's the same speed.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, but they're able to manipulate air molecules and torque their body in such a way where like they're gonna one will dive quicker than the other person.
Well, that just has to do with air resistance, I think.
Right.
And it's like you get to a point where, based on your surface area when you're falling, so if you make yourself like a pinpoint going down, so when they're really flat and straightened, they would go down a lot faster. So that's what's called your terminal velocity. But if you spread out more, then you have more surface area hitting the air. That's when you're going down, and so your terminal velocity is smaller.
Yeah, and if I can actually ask Debbie real quick, because when it comes to buoyancy, this should be pointed out that the equations for buoyancy actually incorporate gravity in it. You cannot have buoyancy if gravity doesn't exist. The actual formula for fluid buoyancy is directly equal to the density of the fluid times the volume of the fluid times the gravitational constant. So in that equation, you cannot have buoyancy unless you have gravity. So how are you using the term buoyancy here, if we can ask? Because the conventional term for buoyancy requires gravity to have a buoyancy condition in fluids.
Wow. Okay. So I just don't believe that this force exists. You have to explain the cause. I mean, the scientific laws describe the what is, but the cause is NA for some reason, and you have to. Gravity is not. It's not a scientific fact. That's why they made it a theory in the first place. Because you have to still isolate the cause and explain what is the cause of this force.
Well, what do you want to call that G then? In the formula, the formula works. We can use it to establish what buoyancy is. Buoyancy equals to density times volume times gravitational force.
I don't know all that. I just know that objects float, objects sink, objects fall.
Well, and too. Let me just interject.
Okay, hold on one second.
Sure.
Now, when you look at these globe images, you see like the water's balling up. So, what's this powerful force is strong enough to pull water to the center, but yet let things just in nature just go freely. Bees, or like birds and things like that.
Okay, Kirsten, that would be a good question for you to kind of take.
Yeah. So in that sort of context, Debbie, it's the water doesn't provide a force against gravity. The water's just kind of sitting there, doesn't really do anything to move against the gravity. Whereas with a bee or a bird, when they flap their wings, they create an external force against gravity. And so that force overpowers gravity, which means that they can go up. It's kind of like with a plane as well. It provides a force, a thrust out of the engines that allows it to not escape the gravity. That's what we use rockets for. You escape the gravitational pull with a rocket, so you need a lot more force. But you use enough force to just get you up.
I disagree. I mean, I think the birds just say bye-bye gravity and they go up. They come down when they're darn ready.
So by willpower, right? Sure, willpower of the birds.
Yeah, I think they're just
they
come down when they're tired.
It's not just as simple as but like you said just a minute ago, where people or things float, things fall. There has to be a reason for that, kind of to happen. And although we might not know exactly the ins and outs of gravity, and it is classified as a theory doesn't necessarily always mean it's not the case. It's kind of like the theory of evolution, or the germ theory. We obviously know that germs are a thing, but that is still classified as a theory. So in some cases, just because the word theory is attached to an explanation for something, it doesn't mean it's still in question.
That's the best thing about science as well. Like, we have theories. Our theories do change. That's
Exactly.
We're always making different observations, and so
Yeah, they're subject to change.
exactly. That's the most exciting part about science, to be honest. Whether you believe in a flat Earth or a curved Earth, that's you do these sorts of experiments, and you get to see this evidence coming as much.
Certain diseases and things like that. One example is vitamin D. Lack of vitamin D causes osteoporosis. Bone deficiencies. That the cause is isolated, and you pinpoint of it's lack of vitamin D, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the answer has still not been answered as the cause for gravity, and I see that there's an alternative out there.
Well, let me ask you this.
What would be the alternative to gravity, just out of curiosity?
That you see things in nature float in different mediums that you have, and things fall.
What would cause that, though? Like, why can't we just jump up in the air and say
that? Answer, I guess. Like, we're trying to get a cause of why these things happen, and we're differing a little bit in causes or reasons, but let's try and get to a solution here. Like, Debbie, what do you think causes these things to actually fall? Like, if I drop my pen, why did my pen just drop? I'd be interested in knowing what you think about that.
Because it's the properties of the pen itself. It's the density of it. It falls. There's nothing. There's nothing pulling on it. Like some kind of magical thing. You're still escaping that. If you look at the globe images, the gravity is explaining. The water sticking on a spinning Earth, which just defies common sense. That's just me. So. It doesn't make sense. Okay. I see that the Earth is flat. Water is contained. It's level. If you have these beliefs, that the Earth is a globe, you're going against governing laws of nature. And that goes back to Thales. He was like the first Greek astronomer. That was that had his belief set on natural science.
Okay.
So if I call let me ask you this: if I call Kirsten right now, where she is, it's dark. It's dark where we are here in the States, but like Kirsten said, it's noon where she is. How can we account for the fact that it's dark on one side and light on the other if the sun is just overhead?
Okay, are you asking me?
Yes, because we can account for it if it's a globe model, right? Because the sun is on her side of the Earth. Obviously, it's dark over here. But on a flat Earth scale, how can you account if the sun is always overhead or shining on that one side? How is it dark where we are but light where Kirsten is?
Okay, so to my understanding on the flat Earth model, it's the sun is like a localized sunlight, so it's only going to light up the portion of the Earth. Now how it's moving, I don't know. I'm hearing different, things about how it's moving. Sometimes I've heard it's like zigzagging. It's just weird. So I'm not sure. This is why I don't really deal with the astronomy thing. It's like my weakest point.
But don't you think you should though? Because that's going to be a major aspect of what's going to prove which
No, not at all. I don't think that looking up determines your, under your feet is a globe. You have to look at the measurable curvature and where is it? How can you locate it? Looking at long distance, things on the long distance and measuring.
But you just said yourself that it is weird that you can't explain why that localized light can't be seen throughout, correct?
Yeah, but that doesn't determine the Earth to be a globe. It's if you look at the sunspots, that's it proves that it's a local sunlight.
Well, okay. Earlier you said about something about the sun, and I think this will be a good point for Kirsten to kind of explain, where you said the sun looks a lot closer than what the globe model says that it is. So, Kirsten, take us through the sun and its distance from the Earth and why it appears to be a lot closer than it actually is.
Okay, a few questions first.
Sure.
How big, Debbie, do you think the sun is? Just out of curiosity.
I have no idea. Astronomy is my weakest point. I think that the calculations are just are incorrect. I mean, all the mathematicians had different calculations. So I mean, who's the correct one? Who's got it right?
Okay.
This looks local. It looks close to me. It's right there in our atmosphere, under a dome for a minute, mirror ceiling, or
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, from my knowledge, I know that the sun is about 1.5 million times bigger than the Earth, and about 150 million, 150 million kilometers. My conversion to miles is not very good. I think it's like, someone help me out here.
Oh, I wish I could. Steve maybe can.
Oh, you want to convert something?
Yes, we'll stick with kilometers just because that's the units I know. So
I just literally stepped back for a second. What are we converting?
I have Alexa, Echo Dot. She does all my converting for me.
Oh, nice. Okay, well,
what are we converting?
Converting the distance to the sun in kilometers to miles.
It's about 14 million kilometers, I believe.
About 15 million kilometers.
15, yeah, 15, yeah, 50. I think it's 15 kilo. Let me look. I'll do the conversion. I think it's 15 million kilometers, though. 93 million miles. 150 million miles. Kilometers. Excuse me, 150 million kilometers. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew. Sounds something like that. Yeah, 150 million kilometers sounds about right.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's a long distance. Like that distance is a sort of distance that light takes a long time to travel between. So for us, as an astronomer, I would say it's about 8.5 light minutes away. So the light that you see from the sun is always 8.5 minutes old. It's really weird. It's really cool. I am fascinated by it, so I think it's amazing. But because it is so far away, I'm trying to come up with, because you think it looks big, right? Or you think it's like right there?
No, it looks like to my eyes, it looks like a disc. It looks like it's just emitting light, radiant light, or to me, it doesn't look that far away.
Okay.
It does not look like night. I mean, I think that's incorrect. That calculation.
Okay.
I've seen balloon footage go up. So the sun is right there. You have to explain to me how it's right there. Right there in the frame, creating a hotspot.
Okay. So when it comes to space and like videos of space, when we go up and it looks like the sun is right there, our depth perception is not really viable in that case because we don't have that, like, that comprehension of that sort of size to our eyes is just way too much for us to handle. So I can look at my bedroom door here and I know that it's about 2 meters away because I can comprehend that sort of distance. But when I look up at the sun, I agree, it looks a lot closer than it appears just because of how we see it in the sky and everything like that. But we don't have that perspective of what that sort of distance is to our eyes. So I can see how you see the sun in that sort of way. Does that kind of make sense and answer the sort of question?
Okay, so you said you can't perceive the distance. So how did they come up with the 93 million miles?
Okay.
And how did they come to determine that it was, 109 Earths fit into the sun?
109 fit across the diameter. That's the exact right number. 109 Earths can fit across the diameter of the sun. And you can fit about 1.5 million inside of it. In the case that it's a globe shape and the Earth is a globe shape as well. So for us to measure how far away the sun is, we can do it in many different ways. We can measure the light that comes to us. We can know how long it took to get from there to us. We can also basically do Pythagoras theorem. So essentially, if we measure where the sun is in the sky on one day of the year, and then measure how long it takes for us to get back to that same day the next year, and see if it's in the same position, we can then sort of work out, okay, well, if it took us this long to go around and we know the mass of the sun and the mass of the Earth, then we can work out how far away the sun is from the Earth.
Wow. Well, to me, to my eyes, it doesn't appear to be as big as they claim it is. I think again, it goes back to religion. It's an atheistic view. I'll stay firm on this, that they place the sun in the middle of the solar system, and everything is twirling around it. I think that they made the sun very important. It goes back to sun worship. It has to go back to religion. You have to bring the religion.
Well, it's not really an atheistic. It's not an atheistic view, though, Debbie, because there are many.
Yes, it is, because
Christians that believe that the Earth is round.
Because they're still indoctrinated. I don't think that they interpret their scriptures correctly, because the indoctrination is still got at its grips. Because we trust the men that they're in the scientific field to give us correct information about the cosmos. I think that they don't. I don't think they have all the answers to everything. I think what they don't know, they'll just they create things, and definitely they don't have the evidence for it. Nobody's been to space, to my understanding.
You're 100% correct. I do have to agree with what you said at the start of that sentence, that we don't know all the answers. That is 100% correct. We do not know everything. But for me, I get very excited about this, because that's the exciting part, that we don't know everything. Yeah. So we can go out and do these experiments and learn and make theories. And again, like we said earlier, like these things do change.
Absolutely.
So Debbie, Kirsten works at an observatory in Australia. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kirsten, but it's the largest observatory in Australia, correct?
The one I worked at during summer had the biggest optical telescope in Australia, but the one I work at now and currently is Sydney Observatory. We have a few biggish telescopes.
Sure. Well, so part of her job was to look up into space and see other planets and stars. And when you see other planets, for example, Mercury or Mars, Venus, they're round and globular up in space, and the stars, how do you explain what they are and the shape that they are, and why they would be different than us here on Earth?
For the planets?
Yeah, I'm asking Debbie how she would explain that, because you looked at those things through telescopes, and you can see that there are other planets, in the solar system that are round. Mm-hmm. How do you explain why they would be different compared to us here on Earth?
Okay, so you're looking through a telescope and you're seeing a spherical object. Is that what you're
correct?
Claiming?
Yeah, but do you believe that the planets that we do see around are spherical?
No, I think it's the lens of the telescope that's doing it. It's somehow bending light or bending the object, creating the object to be spherical. Do we see the back of the back side of the planets through telescopes?
Yes. So, but not like directly. So what happens is these planets are rotating as well, like the Earth is. And so from night to night, let's say Jupiter's coming up at the moment. So in a few weeks' time, I'll be able to start observing Jupiter on my night tours. So I could see it one night and it'll look like it'll have a certain pattern on it. But the next night it will look completely different because it would have rotated. And we would be seeing it.
Oh, really? Now it rotates. Does it spin? The Earth's supposedly spinning, and so planets spin.
Yes.
Have you ever seen a planet like through a zoom lens camera?
A camera?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I haven't seen I haven't seen one through a camera. Only through a telescope with my eyes.
Oh wow! Well, you need to check it out. To me, it's like it's a light being. It's like beautiful. It doesn't look like a NASA planet by any means. Yeah, they look like they resonate with frequency, like they have their own little mind. I think what is it called, schematics or something like that? I'm probably butchering the word. I don't know. So yeah, it looks like it resonates with frequency. It's giving off a tone and it's creating a pattern. It changes. The pattern changes. And every planet looks different. I've only seen like a couple, like Mercury and Venus. Mm-hmm. The other ones I haven't seen through.
With Mercury and Venus, then, because they are closer to the sun than we are, what shape were they when you saw Mercury and Venus?
Through a zoom lens, it looked it looked kind of roundish, but it didn't look spherical. In fact, I can see the atmosphere behind it almost. If I put a freeze frame on the as the stars the frequency is, going. It's almost like you can see the atmosphere behind it. The same way with the moon. You see, like during the day, it's if the moon's out during the day, you see it's kind of like a bluish blotches, and that's because the atmosphere is blue behind it.
Yeah.
And that same applies if it, at night, if you're watching it, you'll see the blotches become darker. That's the dark atmosphere behind it. I've yet to see the backside of the moon. I don't know if you have anything to show. If you can prove there's a backside and you can show images of a backside other than from NASA, I may take you serious on that.
Okay. Well, I don't have my own satellites around the moon, unfortunately. One can dream, but there have been satellites that, like, there is a lunar orbiter, so a robot, so to say, satellite that does orbit around the moon, and we actually do have images. I know you've asked for images that weren't from NASA, so unfortunately I can't provide those, but there are photos that do exist of the dark side of the moon, as in the side that we don't see.
So how do you get those pictures that transmitted back to Earth? How are these signals? Yeah.
Sorry.
How's the data? Yeah, how's the data coming back?
Okay. Well, do you have a mobile phone?
Excuse me?
Do you have a phone, like a mobile or a cell?
Yeah.
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 So when you send a text message, you're sending a radio signal to an antenna that will relay that signal to the person you're trying to reach and send that text message to. We can do the exact same thing with satellites. They send this sort of radio signal back down to Earth, and it can propagate through the vacuum of space between the moon and the Earth, and we can receive those signals that way. It's the exact same thing as a mobile phone.
Okay, I don't believe that the satellites, in geosynchronous orbit or lower Earth orbit, I don't believe that anything is up there. I haven't seen the evidence to prove so. It's the lack of evidence that I have a big problem with, from NASA.
Okay, I have a quick question. What's your stance on the space station? Do you think that exists and that is orbiting around the Earth?
Oh wow, no, I don't believe it's up there.
Okay.
Okay, so the reason, let me just make a statement here. The reason being is that that some of their footage anomalies I have big issues with. The harnesses. They're supposed to be in weightlessness, and they'll fall to the floor. All of a sudden. The Russian astronauts, they just flew into a wall one time. I mean, it was just hilarious. So yeah, so I found out why they're how they're faking it before. It was from nose diving in an airplane, creating weightlessness. I've seen other experiments how that's being done. So now they don't have to do that. They're using virtual technology, and I came across one video, and the guy was explaining that this Telemetric Inc. Company, it was linked to Johnson Space Center. So I told my friend about it, and he did a really good video on it, and he knows all about studio design, and he was able to make a trash can lift up off the floor, and he wasn't even in the picture. He knows all about this. And if I can say his name's Mike Helmick. He has some great content on the subject, and so it's. I mean, I could just name you just hundreds of reasons why they're not up there. I have like a full list I always put out in the fire communities.
Okay. Did you know?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Yeah. So, are you understanding about what virtual augmented reality technology is? If you don't, you should look it up. They did take HoloLens technology to the ISS. So I don't know why they would be researching that, on the ISS. And I'm looking for the research they've done. They're supposed to be, doing cancer research. I'm not seeing anything that they have provided to help humanity, period. Growing cabbage is not, science. So I'm not seeing any, productiveness, on this spaceship that's supposed to be 250 miles up and traveling at 17,000 miles per hour when they come across many sunrises and sunsets. They say it gets really hot up there. They said they get very hot. How do these metals don't melt, come in close contact to the sun, and, their glass, the camera lens, You would think that it would just melt.
Okay.
Another thing is the Reds did a cover on the ISS transit, which looks like I don't know what it is.
It looks
It
like the
looks to me it looks like
ISS.
the.
By the way, that
Well,
was
the thing is,
that has over 1 million views right now. By the way, that video,
yeah, it
very
looks
very
like the
excellently done.
module. Maybe I don't know if it's on a jet propulsion balloon or it could be unmanned aircraft. I'm not sure. But the other day I came across a thing that was on the news about UFO aircraft and some military aircraft that captured an object, and it looks identical to the ISS the way Reds had on his video.
All
I
right. Well,
mean, it looks
let me ask
identical.
Deb real quick on that real quick because I happen to seen that video and I actually think it's one of the best transits footage of all time. If it doesn't have 1 million right now, it has close. Last time I looked, it had like 930,000 views. But there's
Yeah.
a program out there, and anybody can go do this. You can actually put your longitude, latitude in, and say when is the ISS going to be visible,
Hmm.
and you can check for
Yeah.
yourself. And also the same way, have you heard? Do you know what the M42 Orion Nebula is?
It's a nebula.
It's a nebula, so it's a very
Mm-hmm.
distinct one, very visible. You can see with the naked eye for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually put a telescope and point it toward the M42, and if you are patient and your eyes are adjusted properly, occasionally you'll see a little white light going across your field of view. That's because those are satellites in that
Mm-hmm.
corridor.
Yeah, I just
What instead of satellites, what are those things, and what is the ISS that you are looking at when you make that prediction? I am at this location at this time. I look in this
mm-hmm.
particular direction. I should see the ISS. What are we looking at when we do
Oh,
that?
wow. I mean, it's I don't know if you can like figure out the distance of it. I'm trying to be on top of this ISS thing because I really want to know what people are seeing. Others people that are capturing light phenomena objects that cross the sky. I've seen it in many videos. Planes like half disappearing. Um, it could be a number of things that are up there. Lockheed has jets up there flying around. All around the Earth at any given time, to my understanding.
Isn't it
It,
easier though just to say that it could be what they say it is, rather than trying to look at what it possibly
um,
could be? What are
okay,
the chances it could actually be the ISS?
so the Pentagon spent $22 million on studying UFO. So I mean, maybe they've tracked something that goes around the Earth, and they've able to attach the data to it.
So you're not saying aliens, but you're saying aliens.
I'm not saying aliens. I'm saying that there's phenomena that people don't know about or are aware of.
I'll agree with
Um,
you there.
So not necessarily aliens, but aliens. Okay.
No,
Not aliens, not
Not
aliens. I'm
aliens.
talking about
yeah.
spiritual
Okay.
things
So
that
you're
we
not
don't we don't.
not like a biological entity, but something more along the lines of celestial entity.
No, it could
Yes,
be.
light phenomena. Things like vortexes. Just things that maybe people have looked into, and some people that haven't looked into it.
UFOs do exist. I'll give you that. I mean, there are things out there that
Mm-hmm.
you can't explain. And that doesn't
Right.
necessarily mean that they're aliens, but
Right.
there was a story that broke uh, the Washington Times a few weeks ago about UFOs that were tracked by fighter jets,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that the Pentagon discussed. It doesn't necessarily mean aliens, but
Right. It's unidentified aircraft. I mean,
right.
unidentified is
Yeah, you
it's not
unidentified.
identified.
UFO is unidentified. Correct. Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of the foyer, whatever you call it. They've releasing things in increments. So I don't know if they're going to come to a disclosure. I'm sure MUFON would be happy about that. So
But isn't it
yeah,
easier though
there's
just to?
light phenomena up there. I mean, there's lots of it. People are capturing these light things.
But
You
we know
can't
what
say.
those are. So you're talking about sprites and elves and things of that nature, right?
No, I'm talking about just light things that just dart across the sky, and people want to, claim that it's, satellites. That's not science. You can't go up there and confirm what it is.
But you
Like
can
my,
track it,
so
correct?
my
I mean,
research.
we can actually track these objects. There are things out there, software where you can go to and say, I want to track this particular satellite. Matter of fact, we know one satellite is going to be
Yeah.
crashing into the Earth in the next couple of weeks. Matter of fact, I think it's the first or second week of April that the Chinese satellite's coming down, and they'll know within probably about 24 to 48 hours. Is that right now, Kirsten? If you correct me if I'm wrong, that be prior to that, and they'll know pretty much where that's
Hmm.
coming down, and people will be able to see it.
There,
If that's the kind of prediction, are we sending stuff like in hot air balloons and just dropping it over people to kind of keep the narrative going?
there's, yeah, I mean, there's satellites that drop to the Earth. I've got like, many photographs of satellites, carried on balloons. These programs have been going on for a long time. Every space agency has them.
Kirsten, are you familiar with the Chinese satellite that's dropping?
Yes, I forget that thing. Yeah, it's gonna be fun when that comes down.
Well, I guess they can.
Not unless it's coming down in your area. I'm not gonna be fun if it comes down into mine.
How damaging could that be?
It's 100 kilogram. Some of the things are supposed to be as much as 100 kilo debris.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, it'll break up as it comes down, though.
But the largest parts can be up to 100 kilo. That's pretty significant.
Okay. Ooh, yeah. Let's hope it lands on the ocean.
Yes.
Yeah.
So getting back to the discussion, do you think it's harder to reach, I think, for a different explanation, just because you said something interesting that you said earlier, Debbie, that before you came to the flat Earth model, that you were into conspiracies already, right? Like UFOs, and do you think that may have kind of influenced your decision a little bit? That it was easier to kind of jump over to that model because you were already into the whole conspiracy thing. It seems like you like the conspiracy theory, and that's not a bad thing, but could that have been maybe an easier way for you to jump over to a flat Earth model?
No, the reason why I jumped over it quickly was that my aunt taught me at a young age that evolution was false. So again, you have to the evolution theory is it's a theory. It's never been proven. You have to apply the scientific method. And so the basic tenet of science is applying the scientific method, observable, repeatable experiments. I mean, everybody should know this.
You do realize that scientific theories are not provable by definition, right? That no scientific theory can ever be proven. They can be disproven as what's called falsificationism. But falsificationism says that a theory or hypotheses can only be disproven. You cannot prove a theory. So for the fact that no theory is proven is a non sequitur, because no theories are ever proven. Germ theory is not proven. Atomic theory is not proven. But my background was working with reactors. I know reactors work. I have experience in that.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that. So now everybody who's like saying, well, theory is a fact. Well, thank you.
Well, a theory is a collection of facts.
It's based on a set of facts.
Yes.
So something that everybody can all observe and do an experiment with. However, when it gets to evolution, you cannot observe evolution as it's happening in nature.
We can't actually.
Right. Well, it's not in nature. Evolution happened supposedly in nature. So it's just, I don't see the evidence of evolution. Doesn't make sense.
What is your definition of evolution?
What's a progression of like they taught us on the evolutionary chart, where it's where the bones go to here to here to here. Just over a period of years.
I think that's called anatomy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, they say that that the weaker species extinct. So why is it that we're these monkeys haven't gone through extinction, or obviously we're the dominant species.
That's a little muddy in the water there on the monkey issue, because
Okay, well, I don't really want to get into the. I'm not really going to get into. I'll go back to your question. So I was into a few of the conspiracies, but once I found out about the evolution from my aunt, I just started looking into the flat Earth and everything that's come with it, and it has a lot to do with religion.
Ask Kirsten about the question you asked me about the rockets. What was it that you were saying? How they land upside down or something like that? You asked me earlier a question about I'm trying to remember how you were.
Well, while we're thinking of that, real quick, if I may, could it possibly be, and I want you to really consider this, could it possibly be that your understanding what you think evolution is and what evolution actually is may not be the same things? Because I can guarantee everybody in this room right now, besides Frankie, no, I'm just kidding, we understand what evolution is. We have a basic understanding of evolution. The way we use that word is not synonymous with, I think, how you're using that word. So could it be that what you're looking for to what you think is evolution, you're not finding because you're not looking for what we know to be evolution? Does that make sense?
I don't see the evidence as far as the evidence. So, I mean, where's the evidence of it?
Well, first you have to determine what we're talking about. What we're talking about as far as evolution, right?
We're talking about evolving from a. I mean, like the evolution of from an ape species, right?
But do you not think that her flat Earth paradigm kind of stems? I mean, she just brought up the fact that it kind of was brought up early on that evolution's false. So that could be the cornerstone why everything has to fall into place. Why her worldview is the way it is.
Well,
you mean my view?
If she's willing to talk about it, go ahead.
You mean my view?
Sure.
Yeah, it goes with the model. It goes, with back to the Big Bang. You can't prove the Big Bang.
Kirsten, can you prove the Big Bang?
You can't observe it. No, you can't. That's why it's a theory.
Well, we can observe.
No.
So, like when we look into space, we're looking backwards in time because essentially the light that we see. So remember before we were talking about the sun, how far away that is. It's so far away that light takes a long time to travel to us. So the further back we look into space, the further away we look, the further back in time we're looking as well. So astronomers have actually just recently seen the light from the first stars of the universe, or what they think is the first stars of the universe. And so we're currently making more and more technology that allows us to see further and further back in the universe and to potentially maybe see the Big Bang. But it's like we're saying with all sorts of theories, there's evidence for these theories, but there isn't any evidence that debunks the theories at this moment.
We see things, twirl around the sky, they rotate. That doesn't, I don't think that's, proves the Big Bang. Or just
that's not what I'm saying at the moment.
Oh. Okay, do you know who's the founder of the Big Bang?
The founder of the Big Bang?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Hubble guys?
No, Lemaitre coined the term.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Catholic priest.
Lots of scientists.
Yes,
but the term is a Jesuit priest, but the term is a misnomer. Nothing banged, and it's continuing. The Big Bang is happening right now. It's still a continual event.
Yeah, but he's a Jesuit. Do you know anything about the Jesuit Society and how they take oaths? The same thing as the Freemasons do. Yeah, he was a
right. Yeah, I understand he was a Jesuit priest, but what does that got to do with his model that we can see? Kirsten just had mentioned the cosmic microwave background radiation, which was something that was predicted, saying if this occurred, if this what's called recombination period had happened, where after the universe cooled down, where you can have this combining of protons and electrons, the opaqueness of the universe disappeared, and all these photons that were moving around were able to escape in one big flash. The remnants from that flash we predicted to exist, and we would predict them to be about 2.73, 2.75 Kelvin. That remnant is what we call the cosmic microwave background radiation. It was predicted and it was discovered, and I believe in 1964, Kirsten?
My history is not great, but let's go with that.
I think it was 1964, but it was discovered after it was predicted. And we found ubiquitous, everywhere we looked, this temperature of this remnant of the recombination period. The model gave a prediction, and it came true. We found what the model predicted, and we still see it. Matter of fact, on your TV, on an old analog TV, 1% of that static comes from that microwave background radiation. Believe it or not.
Yeah, if you still have a cathode ray TV.
Yeah, if you still have a cathode ray tube.
So what's that prove? I mean, I don't
Kirsten?
The Big Bang happened. The Big Bang happened.
It proves the model something. It proves or demonstrates that the model represents something we can rely upon and make predictions.
We found evidence for it, and this is our evidence, and so we say that the model has merit, and we believe that it's true.
Oh, that's your belief. I mean, it's not my belief. You're still going to have to explain how surface water is level. You're not going to the evidence of the flat Earth research. I mean, there's like piles of it. You're looking up and you're giving these explanations, but I'm looking down to find the curve, and you keep escaping, you know, to the thing that I'm looking for the past 3 years.
Okay,
Where's
yeah,
the
you're right.
evidence? Yeah, you're too busy looking up, and there's some things, you know, like you stated, you're not going to understand, and come to know, you know, what's going on with the cosmos. So still, you're looking up rather than looking down. I mean, there's still some of the models I have a problem with, as far as like the moon. You know, it's reflection, it's moon phases and stuff.
Mhm.
What are your
So
questions about the
again,
moon?
well, the sun, it gives a reflection of the sun, or it gives the moon phases.
Yep.
Kirsten, you want to kind of, let me ask you this, Debbie. Are you one of those that believe that the temperature of the moonlight is cooler than? Have you heard of this? There's some flat earthers that
Yeah.
believe that.
Cold moonlight.
Right. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the experiments. I haven't done one myself. It makes perfect sense to me that these two objects are too opposite. So I don't know why it would be far-fetched.
Okay, Kirsten, why would that be far-fetched?
The reason why I think that's far-fetched, I'm a bit flabbergasted at the moment, just so I haven't heard this before.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I haven't heard this, a cold moon or anything. The moon doesn't emit heat. It just reflects the light from the sun. And so I can't see how there would be this sort of temperature thing coming into it. So that's where I'm getting a bit confused at the moment.
Well, they actually say that the light, it's not a heat thing, that the light is actually colder. So in the moonlight, it's colder than the surrounding, I guess, darkness around the outside of it. What's the explanation for that, Debbie?
Well, to my understanding, that the moon gives its own light as it you know, rotates it around Earth. They say that the sun is the moon is reflecting off light.
But what would it mean to have a cold light? I mean, light is
Right.
comprised of photons. Photons also comprise what's called infrared. Infrared is heat.
Heat.
So what I mean, what are you suggesting this cold light is comprised of?
I don't know. I mean, I'm looking for the answers. I'm just not going what the scientists say. You know, about the moon.
So you said you did an experiment, right? What did you find the difference was in terms of the moonlight and the darkness that surrounded it? What was the difference in the temperature?
I know I've seen the experiments on YouTube about different people.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I think it changes by a few degrees or something like that. But I know that they say that the things in nature like decay on a different level than the moon light, as opposed to the sunlight. It's a different type of decay that takes place.
Okay, so let's go back to your moon phases. Ask Kirsten your questions about what you have about the moon phases. Ask her what you need answers to on that.
Does the shadow cast upon the moon? Does that prove that it's the globe, like a shadow?
Okay, so this is a very common misconception with the...
Thank you. Now, to everybody out there in the chat room, yes, so this was a misconception, and I found it on NASA. They even actually say it. So
well, let her explain real quick. I know where she's going with this. So
let me explain why this is a misconception. So the lunar phases are not actually caused from the shadow of the Earth. The Earth has, like, the only time you ever see the shadow of the Earth on the moon is when you have a lunar eclipse. So you have the sun, the Earth, and then the moon all next to each other in a line. So the sunlight comes through, it shines onto the shines onto the Earth, and the shadow from that light casts onto the moon. That's the only time when the moon is in the Earth's shadow. For the lunar phases, that's to do with how we see this, how we perceive the sun and the moon. So I don't have a ball on my desk, but like imagine you have like a ball and you have a light shining onto it. If you're here, it's going to look really weird on camera, but we'll see how we go. So you have a light here and you have your ball. If you're looking at it this way, you see the entire face of the ball that's facing you covered in light, right? Yeah, let's use my mouse. That'll do because it's kind of curved. So I'll see the entire face like this. If I keep my light here and I come around this way, I only see that half of the face that's facing me is lit up. The other half has a shadow, its own shadow. So that's kind of how the lunar phases work. It's a shadow of, it's our perception of this orb globe thing, globe moon, having its own shadow here. Like, so same way how I have sunlight here right now and you guys don't have sunlight right now. Does that make sense?
Kind of. Are you saying that that the sun is responsible for the phases?
Yes. It's a relationship between the placement of the moon, earth, and sun system.
Okay.
It's the angle you're looking at it with respect to the moon's position in relationship to the moon, or the earth, and the sun. That's what causes the phases.
Right. Now I've seen some of the evidence out there. It's kind of opposite. It doesn't. Like I took footage of the sun. The sun was opposite of the moon, and it was the sun phase was not coinciding of how the phase should be on the moon.
In what way?
It's just a different. Yeah, it wasn't fully lit. It was like a different type of phase.
Okay. Is this the moon you're talking about again?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was opposite. The moon was. Let me see. The moon was out during the day. It was on the east, and the sun was like setting on the west.
Okay.
So the phase was not. I guess coinciding of how the phase should be as the sun was facing the moon.
Okay. What
so,
phase?
So wait a minute. So wait a minute. So I'm hearing that people can see the sun and the moon at the same time during the day.
Yes.
And then people on the other side of the world can see the moon on the opposite side of the world. So that doesn't make sense. To me, that the bulge would be in the way.
Right. Okay. So it's okay. How do I go about this? It's not a sense of like. So let's say for me right now, not that I can see the moon right now, but I say I can see the sun and I can see the moon and it's in the right sort of phase. So during the day, it'll probably be some sort, either a crescent phase or like a half moon sort of thing, or just not full at least. So I'm seeing the moon, I'm seeing the sun at that same time, at that same instant, on that same day. You guys at night wouldn't be seeing the moon at the same time. You would have to wait for daylight to come around to you so that you would see the sun and the moon at the same time in that same sort of way that I saw it just then. You'd have to come around to your side of the earth so that you could see it. Does that make sense?
I guess it would make sense on the model. To my eyes, just the observations that I'm having, it doesn't match.
Okay. Can I just ask, with what the scenario you were talking about before, when you had the sun setting in the west and the moon rising in the east, what shape was the moon in that instant?
I would have to go to my photo album and look. It just the phase. It should, to me, the way the sun was positioned directly across the moon. The moon should have been lit. It should have had the reflective, glow or whatever. Okay.
So they were completely opposite sides, and the moon wasn't a full circle. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I didn't pull out a compass to double check. I was just like blown away just by seeing these two objects in the sky at the same time. It was in the evening. It was about 6 o'clock.
Okay. How high was the moon at that time?
It was. I can't say how high.
Okay. Let me just. I have some paper here. Let me just draw a picture. So, you have horizon, east, west. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Good.
We got plenty of time.
While you draw that out, Kirsten, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody about the show that you're going to be on coming up here in a couple months.
Oh yeah, true, that thing. Forget about all the things I do. In a couple of months, I will be on a not TV show, but like a movie about how Indigenous cultures all around the world perceive the sky and how they use the sky for navigation. It's called Cosmic Flows. It should be released in August. I'm very excited.
Cool.
That's gonna be awesome. Simply awesome.
Okay, so I have my diagram ready. And apologies for the very bad stick figure, but let's see. Let's say this is you, Debbie. This is you here. And then the moon was over in the east, correct? And the sun was over in the
yeah.
Was it sort of similar in this sort of sense?
The sun was, let me see. I don't know. I mean, can I send the video to like the Hangouts and you can put it up?
Can we do that?
Yeah, is that okay?
What are you trying to do?
She wants to play a video that she's got. How can we do that?
Yeah, how do I put the video up?
Is there anything about copyright or anything like that?
Yeah, it's my video.
Oh, then that's fine. Yeah, of course. Then Frankie,
we'll get our producer Frankie.
We'll get him on that when he gets back. He might have diaper duty at the moment. His kids, not his own.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have another question. If if the moon is supposed to be spherical, how come it doesn't spin?
It does.
It does. So this is a really weird thing as well. Sorry.
We're only seeing like one face of it. We're only seeing like one face of it.
Yeah.
But it orientates depending on the location of the person who's observing it on a different location of the Earth. We're still seeing the same face, but nobody's seeing the back of it. The backside meaning the back of it, where NASA has captured the back of it, and it looks like just like software CGIs.
Well,
Kirsten, can you explain to people tidal lock or geosynchronous rotation?
That's the exact word I was about to use.
Awesome.
So essentially, yes, the moon is in what's called a tidal lock. It's tidally locked to the Earth, which basically is just a nice buzzword. But basically what that means is, say my fist is the Earth and this is the moon, and this is the face that we usually see of the moon. As the moon orbits around the Earth, it also spins. So as I do this, you can see the Earth, my hand is also spinning. If it wasn't spinning, it would go.
It's moving, but it's not spinning. The Earth is supposed to be spinning.
You mean rotating?
Well, it's rotating on its axis.
Yeah. Right. So ignore
the rotation there.
Rotating, but let's just focus on the moon here. Let's ignore the Earth at the moment. Let's just focus on the moon. So in this case, let's say if I don't spin my wrist, it will go around like this. So from this side of the Earth, they would see this face. If it didn't spin, it would go around like this. Then they would see the different face of the Earth, of the moon. Sorry, because it does spin, its rotation time is equal to its orbit time. That's the definition of tidally locked. So as it goes around,
you see the backside of it?
No.
A spherical object has has symmetry on on every side, right? Correct. So I'm saying the backside of it.
Debbie, the moon and the Earth are rotating at the same speed, so you're always seeing the same side.
They say the moon is a spherical object with terrain, correct?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So how? I want to see the backside of it.
You can't, because they're spinning it. They're spinning it the same.
Well,
there's a backside of it, but you're not going to see it.
Well, how does NASA get to see it and nobody else?
They go into space to do it.
Yeah, satellite.
Oh, they go into space.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a satellite, Discover satellite at L1, which is a position in space called the Lagrange point. There's a satellite there. It's about almost 1 million miles away that can take photographs of the other side of the moon. And there's one with relationship with the Earth as well. So we do have satellites.
The idea that there's things, just going around, probes and all that. We don't have any pictures of it. These are expensive space assets that they supposedly supposed to be putting up. In space, and we get just cartoons and CGIs. I'm sure everybody will agree with me. It's the ice is $100 billion. We just don't get any raw good footage, pictures of anything.
You can actually watch it live though. You can watch it live.
You can take a picture on a good iPhone of it.
What, the ISS live feed? Is that what you're referring to?
No. You can actually use an iPhone to take a picture of the ISS as it goes overhead.
Actually, we made telescopes at the observatory. We actually can use our telescope to track the ISS now. It's really cool. I'm still yet to use it and actually see it.
I don't think it's cool because I don't believe it's up there. I'm not seeing any evidence of it. I can go to just a ton of details of.
Where do you think rockets go, Debbie, when they shoot up into the sky?
I think there's a barrier up there. It's preventing to do so.
But they would
hit it? Yeah, wouldn't they hit it?
I think if they went straight up, I think they would hit it. To me, I've seen a lot of footage, and they seem to be going, sideways. They're rotating the Earth supposedly.
But wouldn't somebody, in the age of cameras everywhere on our phones, wouldn't somebody eventually take a picture or a video of that rocket if it did go sideways and stay within the Earth, wouldn't they get a picture of where it actually goes and lands?
No, no. How would you think that? Your eyes only have limited optical viewing.
But what I'm saying is, it's going to go somewhere
You're not
else, somewhere where
right.
other
I know,
people
but it's
could
going
be.
out of view to your own perception. It's not going. You're not seeing it go into actual space.
Sure, I'm not talking about me though. I'm talking about, like, let's say the rocket went sideways across to another side of the land that it's shooting off from. There are other people going to be over there in that area. Where would they go? Why aren't you seeing any kind of proof of where it's landing or impacting?
I have never ever in my whole life seen somebody capture a rocket going past their house or in the sky.
Exactly.
I've never seen it.
I've seen them go up. I used to live next to Vandenberg Air Force Base.
Yeah, but you didn't see it go all the way into space. So you
No,
can't
but I saw it definitely go quite high.
Right. So do airplanes. Airplanes.
So he's asking you what happens after it gets to that height. Does it just
right? Where does it go
back down? Because I didn't see any smoke trail coming back down. It wasn't like a curve or something. It just was going up, and then the smoke tail kind of dissipated.
Well, to my understanding of it, they crash in the ocean.
But the ocean is down. They go up when they
they're going into a sideways trajectory, and then they're like they start to nosedive. I've seen like a lot of footage where they start nosediving like in 5 minutes into the frame, and then they switch to like a simulation or cartoon or. I just
Kirsten, do you want to explain why? Do you want to explain, if you can, why rockets don't go vertically straight up, why they don't go 90 degree, why they do go into an orbital from a more of a horizontal type thing for insertion?
I mean, like, it all depends on what you want to do with your rocket and what you want to do with the stuff inside your rocket. But generally, what we do is when we launch a rocket, we launch it from near the equator so we can get like an extra boost from the rotating Earth. And because most things we put into orbit, what we want to do is be able to have a horizontal trajectory, but you'd also start falling back to the Earth. So let's go to the guys in the space station. They're in microgravity or like no gravity, even though there's gravity up there, because they're in a constant state of free fall around the Earth. They're constantly falling back to the Earth. So if we go straight up, we're just going to come straight back down if we're not going fast enough. But if we go sideways, we have this sort of velocity that will propagate us around as we fall. But if we're going fast enough, we don't actually fall back to the Earth.
I haven't seen any evidence that they're going into space. I don't know. The shuttle was like one that was kind of suspicious to me, where it's supposed to be a glider as they come in, as it approaches Earth and then land. Come to find out, it has engine on it, and they had these aircraft flying behind it to drown out the sound.
What about the rocket boosters, Debbie? What about the rocket boosters that you were talking about earlier? When they land?
Yeah, that was the SpaceX. You mean the Reds or the rocket as far as the moon landings? You
were saying about Reds, how they had the rocket boosters that were supposed to. So what was your issue with that?
To my understanding of like orbital mechanics, just rockets don't work like that. I've heard from engineers talk about it. So
how do the engineers say they? What are the engineers saying, if I may ask?
Well, Red says that he saw it for himself, that the rocket landed backwards. And I guess he was explaining that the boosters allow it to go.
You talking about the Falcon 9 landing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he says that the boosters that launched that allow it to make the force go backwards. So if you're releasing the boosters and it's landing coming backwards, you're still having that other. You're still gonna have to have that other momentum to slow it down to land it on that platform safely. To me, that would make sense to me.
Do you know how rockets work?
It's need like several propellants.
Right, but
it's carrying payload.
But okay, for example, you think rockets don't work in space, correct?
Yeah, it's to my understanding, there's no atmosphere there.
Okay, Kirsten, can you explain why they don't need anything to push against?
Okay, so we don't. Okay, let's start again. So with rockets, when we're launching them into space, or we're launching them, let's say just in Earth, we're launching them off the surface of the Earth. Yes, they have to go against the atmosphere. But once they get out of the atmosphere, about 100 kilometers up or 60 miles up, they can keep going if they still propel a force outwards. So essentially with your rocket, if you put something out one end, it will make it go this way. So as you keep going, these equal and opposite forces will cause this to go. That kind of makes sense. I feel like I butchered that explanation.
Basically, the
yeah,
law of conservation of linear momentum. You have mass being ejected out of the butt end of the rocket, right? So that means you have an opposite and equal reaction in the other way that's going to push against the front of the rocket, causing it to go overall net in that location. Long story short.
Yeah, supposedly the distance. I mean, the speed is 8 miles per second to go to the moon. So my question was, to the panel and the other hangouts was, what's along the rocket's momentum, to reach this moon and launch that lander-looking thing.
Well, first you have to accept that because of the law of conservation of linear momentum and equal and opposite reactions, that rockets will work in space. It makes no difference whether there's an atmosphere or not. You have mass being ejected out. You're gonna move that object that it's coming out from in the opposite way. It's just a matter of conservation.
I don't see any evidence that rockets are going up. They keep switching cameras.
That's not what I said.
There's no. I know, but I'm not seeing any evidence of it. You don't know. You've never been up to space to know.
But you accept that rockets. But you accept that just what I explained to you and Kirsten explained to you, just based upon the laws of physics, rockets will work in space. That is demonstrable. They've done it in vacuum chambers. You can sit on a skateboard and throw a medicine ball. You're going to go the other way. This is basic physics. Do you accept that much is true?
No, I think it runs out of oomph. To be quite frank, I don't think that they have enough propellant to even rotate the Earth to get this what is it, inertia or whatever to get into space.
But you understand that doesn't address my question. If you eject something out the rocket on one way, let's say to the right, I'm going to try to keep it simple. If you do it to the right, something's going to go to the left.
Okay, so if you eject it to the right, it's going to go to the left.
If you eject something from the right of the rocket's going to move to the left. It has to have a conservation, a momentum. It's called.
I don't know if I'm trying to grasp that. My question was,
stand on a skateboard, take a medicine ball, and throw it to somebody. What happens to you?
The momentum. Okay, so
you move in the opposite direction.
You're not traveling 8 miles per second. The spaceship is supposed to be going 8 miles per second.
But stick with the concept. The concept is something goes one way.
It's different. I'm grasping the idea of a powerful spacecraft that's traveling 8 miles per second. That's pretty quick.
But you're making progress here. You're making progress.
It's 50. Yeah, it's awesome. 250,000 miles away that they're going, and they have to gain velocity, increase their speed. The faster they go up there, and then you have to take into account for all the the rotations and things.
But you are at the point where you agree, though, something goes one way, it's going to go the other way, correct?
I guess like if you're on a skateboard and you're like, you fall?
No, you throw a medicine ball.
You throw something heavy, it's going to push you back the opposite way. It's going to have an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah, I think I've seen the experiment. The engineer was explaining that.
So there you go. There you go. Awesome. Hey,
there's a good video. No, there's a good video that an engineer explains that there's no the rockets aren't getting up. I mean, why would he lie? He's teaching his students.
Oh, we were so close. Thought we had a breakthrough there.
We
were almost there.
I'm looking at
Kirsten, help me out here.
I mean, I launch rockets all the time. Granted that they're like little water bottle rockets, but like they work. Obviously, they don't go up in space.
But you've never seen one go in space, though, and neither have I. You can't confirm that it's actually in space. You're just going by.
She watches them though. That's Kirsten.
What about SpaceX?
Yeah.
You mean you watch one leave the Earth?
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch it actually go rotate the Earth before it left, gain velocity and go up?
I actually know people who were able to track the car that was put into space, and were actually able to watch it orbit around the Earth. So yes, I have.
You're talking about the Tesla automobile.
Yeah. So the Tesla that they put up in space, astronomers of mine that I know have actually tracked it and were able to see it orbit around the Earth.
No, I didn't see that.
That's okay.
I didn't see the whole video of it. I just seen like a few clips of it. that thing was just really hideous. I mean, it just didn't look right. It was obviously done in the studio. So
No,
what was this? Was
she's
the
saying that she
automobile?
actually saw it. She actually saw it go up there. I understand
Did
that
you
you
take
said
pictures? Did you do any footage to that you can share?
None of my own, but I know astronomers who are able to actually track.
Why don't you have? That
with.
seems kind of weird that you don't have footage. That you, I mean, did you know that they were launching?
Yeah.
This would have been
I mean,
awesome
like, I watched
capture.
it. I watched
awesome.
the live feed.
Well,
but
anybody
like,
who's
now. Sorry.
anybody who knows something that's going to happen, obviously want to capture it. So why you didn't capture it? I don't know why you didn't.
Well, I'm on a student budget. I don't have the money to.
Real quick, Debbie, do you have the link that you want us to play? We can have the ability to do so now if you give us the link somewhere, either by G Plus or by Twitter or whatever your means by choice is.
I'm not
to your
sure.
footage of the moon.
You had a video that you wanted us to kind of show for reasons.
Oh, okay. I just want to address this the SpaceX
Okay, no video.
For a quick sec. Can you explain how how they had the automobile onto the rocket and how is it mechanically able to go into space with something attached to it? I don't know how they
Well, the car wasn't riding on the rocket, I don't think.
Yeah. So
no, it looks like I know. Yeah.
Well, let her explain. Let her explain.
It's actually inside the rocket. So you have essentially they had 3 Falcon 9s. So they had 3 Falcon 9s all together, strap them together, and they have on the middle one there's an extra little bit on top. That's where the actual.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen the models like that before. Okay.
Yeah. So that's where the actual car went. It was like held inside the cargo bay essentially, and so when it launched up, it went up. The 2 side boosters, I'm losing my cargo bay. The 2 side boosters came back down to Earth. And then a little bit later, the main core engine also detached itself. But then this still has this momentum to it. And so it's still going up into space, or it's still going up, let's just say. And then eventually what happens is the stuff that's around the car was taken off. Like it was ejected off. So then the car, still with this trajectory, is still going.
How far was it up there?
How far was it?
What was the altitude?
That's a good question. I can look it up, but like it was quite high, like hundreds of kilometers high. At the moment, you can actually see where the Roadster is now. If I go to, there's a great website if people want to go to it called whereisroadster.com. You can see the numbers. I know numbers can lie, but there have been scientists that have done the models to actually know where it is and based on the trajectory, how fast it was going and all that sort of stuff. And currently I can tell you that the car is 7 million miles from Earth, traveling at a speed of 7,500 miles per hour.
7 million miles.
Isn't it heading toward Mars or something along those lines?
Yeah, it's heading towards Mars at the moment.
It gets him. You're going to be teaching the Martians how to drive the hard way. Yeah, here's a car.
Yeah.
Have at it.
I've just put the website into the chat, so you can if you want to put that up on the screen, you are more than welcome. But that's where you can actually see where the Roadster is right now. There's a model of where it will be over the next 2 years as well. It's really cool. I love it. And the merchandise is great. It's great.
I have a big problem with the things that they were showing. First of all, there was when the thing was going, the car that sputtered, there was some type of malfunction with the film. Then there was I didn't see any continents. I didn't see any continents visible. I didn't see any stars. If they're 7 million miles away, I didn't see the sun or the moon anywhere. I still didn't see any satellites, no space assets. Then there was there was a reflection on the car that obviously it was in a studio. You'll never convince me that they had something strapped onto an apparatus, rocket or whatever. The footage just looked. I mean, it was just cartoonish. These kids are falling for this. I mean, what's next from
one thing
SpaceX?
at a time, Debbie.
Yeah, they're going to the Mars, right?
One thing at a time, Debbie.
Well,
let
it's
her
not
answer
being
your
sent
first
to
question.
Mars, but
I have to address my issues that I had with it, and so that explains like
Sure.
why I
I'm
don't
saying
believe that it was even.
just sure. I'm just
Yeah,
saying one point at a time.
I
Let
want to
her.
make as many as points as that I can, so my point gets across, so everybody and your viewers can know
Right.
sure,
or
but
I'm
understand.
saying
each one
right,
has to be addressed
right at a
in
time.
in order, right?
Right in order.
You
Yeah.
can't throw 10 things out there because that's not fair for somebody to
Then we
respond to
actually
10.
lose your points. You know what I'm saying? So in
Yeah,
order for
exactly.
her to answer all of your points, let her hit one at a time. You know what I'm saying? Instead of
Yeah,
putting
each one can
30
be
into one
addressed and
question.
explained.
Okay, but she didn't. We didn't see any continents. And the Earth wasn't spinning either.
Okay,
So
good.
you have to explain that one.
Let's address that one then. Okay, so I didn't watch the footage, like the live stream, for when the camera was still working before it ran out of battery. But like when you're looking at Earth from that sort of height, when it's orbiting around the Earth, it can be hard to distinguish continents and everything because, face the facts, 70% of the Earth is covered in water, and there's clouds and stuff that could be in the way. So I can see why you may not have been able to see continents and observe those things. And I can't say that I could because I didn't watch this footage, the secondhand footage. Can I now address the stars thing you were saying? So you're saying that you couldn't see stars from the footage or the sun on the moon? Yep, that was your next point.
Yeah. You can address it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with the sun and the moon, I mean, from what I know, the camera wasn't pointing towards the sun or the moon. It was mostly pointed towards the Earth. So that's why we really only saw the Earth. In regards to not seeing other stars, because essentially they're saying that they're in space, so you should be able to see stars. In this case, the Earth is a really bright thing that's right next to you, and so it's so bright that you actually can't see the stars' light. That makes sense because, let's say, with light pollution, for example, if you're in a bright city, you don't see as many stars in the night sky. But if you're in a really dark area, you can see lots of stars in the night sky. It's that difference in light there. So the Earth is too bright for us to actually see stars in that context.
Debbie, have you ever been to a football game? A live football game? Okay. Have you ever looked at the stadium lights and looked up in the sky and you don't see any stars? Maybe you might see a really, really bright one. For the most part, they're all washed out. It's kind of a similar things. There's something called exposure. And when you're taking a photograph, if you had left it exposed long enough where you'd actually see the stars, the Earth or whatever planet there, it would be so bright, it would just wash everything out anyways. It would be overexposed. So that's why you don't see stars, because the brightness difference is magnitudes of factors different.
Exactly right.
Okay, would they, if they're on the ISS, would they be able to see stars?
Depending on which way they're looking. So if they're looking at the Earth, they wouldn't see stars around the Earth. If the sun's in the way, they wouldn't see stars around the sun. But if they looked in the opposite direction, where there's no Earth, no moon, no sun in their particular field of view that they're actually looking, then they would see stars then.
Right. Because the Earth is going to wash out all the stars around it. Yeah,
there's no other bright light to like contrast to that.
Okay, well, so Don Pettit says that they see stars all the time. I really don't know what he was referring to. What about them? If they were like going to the moon, would they also be seeing stars?
Depends on like where on the moon you are. Like if you're on a dark part of the moon, so like the sunlight isn't, or even Earth light, if the sunlight or Earth light isn't shining onto the part of the moon that you're on, then yes, you would see stars. But if you're on a lit part of the moon where you have sunlight directly there, it's the same as if I look outside now, I don't see stars because the sun's too bright for me to see them.
Yeah, if we didn't have an atmosphere, the sun still would be there. Same thing with those bright lights from a football game. You still see a bright light. You don't see the stars, right? And there's very little atmosphere between you. Same principle. It's going to wash out any kind of low. But you got to remember that the light from a star from that distance is very nominal. I mean, it's in the measure of a few photons kind of thing. So it's nominal compared to the amount of light, luminescence you're getting from the sun itself. I mean, we can get into physics another day, but it's a lot. I'm assuring you it's magnitudes of difference.
Okay, so one question. So how long was the moon mission?
Depends on
the first moon mission.
Apollo 1? Apollo 1 moon mission failed. It didn't last very long.
Okay, so the second one, yeah, I don't like nosediving in these missions.
Let's consider like the first one that when they actually went there. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah. Does anyone know how long the moon mission was for? It's like a couple of days, wasn't it? Or a couple of hours even.
Okay,
well, the first one that landed, or the first one that went there. There's a big difference there.
Let's go with the first one that landed.
Okay.
Okay, the reason why I'm going to this is because when they did their press conference when they returned, they said they didn't see any stars at all. So I mean, obviously you must not have seen their faces.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't look like they achieved something magnificent feat as the biggest achievement in history of getting to the moon. So they said they didn't see stars. Don Pitts,
for
they
the
see
same reason we
stars
just
all the
explained.
time.
Right, they would be washed out.
Yeah, it'll be the same sort of thing, same way that how we don't see stars during the day.
I said, so how come that when they went to the moon, they didn't see stars at all? And how long were they there? But they said they see no stars.
Okay,
that doesn't add up.
Yeah, so in the time that they were actually on the moon doing, what they need to do on the moon, from the photos that I've seen and from what I know is that it was actually, let's say, daytime on the moon. So the sun was shining on them when they were on the moon. So the same reason why we said before, if you're at a football game, the lights from around the stadium would be too bright. So say that those lights would be the sun, and they wash out the rest of the stars.
So if they were on the moon, you're saying that the sun would be on the opposite side of the Earth, and so they wouldn't see stars.
So ignore the Earth in this case. So you have the moon, and you have sunlight going onto the moon. In that case, you would only see the sunlight because it would wash out all of the other stars because the light is too intense compared to the other stars. But if it was nighttime on the moon when they were there, then they would see stars. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to remember if they had this one image of Earth and it wasn't full. The sun was. Oh gosh, I can't remember where the sun was.
And by the way, to answer your question, the Apollo 11 was launched on July 16th, 1969. It returned July 24th, 1969.
There you go.
They returned
8 days.
Yeah, were they in the module, this little module thing, kind of like a pyramid-looking thing?
The lunar module?
No, it's a module, not the
The command module.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they would have been in the spaceship for most of the time, and then we're on the moon for like a short amount of time.
How long were they in that little thing?
There's two different parts of it. The command module Columbia is different from the lunar module, which was the Eagle. That's why they said the Eagle has landed. There were two different components to that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, the little small. The
there are
module.
Two different modules. You got to remember.
It was a little. It was a little thing. It was like I think it was 3 men in there.
Yeah, it wasn't very big. They were cramped. I'm sure it sucked.
To my understanding, I was told that they were in there for 2 weeks.
No, that sounds right based on the dates that we just said.
Yeah, the entire mission only lasted 8 days, so over a week, but
8
not
8 days.
Yeah.
You don't know the correct the exact days.
July 16th and July 4th.
No, the 16th to the 24th.
Yeah, I had to look that up. I did not have that known.
Okay, anyways, I'll just skip that. I don't know. We're still looking above. You still haven't explained the backside of the moon. We haven't seen that. Or any
because
of the backside
tidal lock. If we saw the backside of the moon, that would mean the moon is not rotating on its axis.
Or at least it's not rotating this right amount.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, if you're saying it's an object with terrain, correct? It has some type of dirt material.
Yeah. Sure, it's a rock of some form. Yeah.
So how can we know that it's spherical if we're not observing the backside?
Well, the lunar phases show that it's a circle. Like if you take a pancake,
it's not a full. You're not seeing the backside. The moon orients itself depending on where the observer is. Like seeing the same face upside down. Comparative to being in the southern or the northern hemisphere. Correct?
Yes.
You're still seeing the same phase, but you're seeing in a different orientation of it. Correct?
That actually provides evidence to the globe theory of the Earth.
Now I'm looking for the spherical to prove that it's
David,
spherical.
do you know why things are spherical? I mean, if you had to venture a guess, just throw it out there. Why do you think most objects in space are spherical more than any other shape? You don't find dodecahedrons. You don't find a triangle. You find most objects like planets and stars to be spherical. Why is that?
So is balls on a pool table. They're spherical. But does that mean that the table is also spherical? No, it's flat.
But my question is, why do we find natural objects in space? Why are they more spherical than any other shape? There's a reason for it.
To me, they look just like round discs. I don't see any sphericity to it.
You think they're all flat? You think Saturn's flat?
I'm not seeing any spherical nature of it. I'm only seeing it like through a telescope, and the telescope is telling you what it wants you to see. And I believe that's curving the object and making it appear spherical.
Well, the reason why things are spherical, and again, Kirsten, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's actually the most energy conservation point that gravity is going to have. Basically, it's going to have everything congeal together. So basically, you're going to have, let's say you have a gas, and gravity's going to pull that gas into a center point, and that is a lowest state of potential energy. It's basically ground state. I'm trying to word this in a way that she understands, and I'm having a hard time doing it because I do understand these concepts, but I'm trying to relate it in a way that she might be able to understand, and I'm failing at this. So as a science communicator, why don't you kind of help me out there?
Oh, I suck at astronomy. I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay.
No, I meant for Kirsten to kind of explain the thing of a lowest potential and the most conserved state of the system.
It's essentially the most relaxed state it can be in. Has the lowest energy. So say if I sit up straight, I'm not as relaxed as I could be if I slant back, right? So for physical things in space, its most relaxed state in a way is a sphere.
Yeah, and it's also somebody has pointed out, and this is true as well, it has to do with the ratio of your volume to surface area, the most conserved for that as well. There's things actually in physics and science of why these things go to these types of geometric shapes. It's not anything random. It is based upon the laws of the universe. And so to have something like a disc shape is not what we would expect for planets to form. It just wouldn't be.
Mm.
Well, they just look like discs. The stars do not look like. They look like they resonate. They have some type of intelligence, or I don't know.
What do you mean by resonate?
Well, you've never seen what the stars look like and what the planets actually look like through a zoom lens.
You're talking about photos that are highly out of focus, right?
That's what the Globers claim, that it's out of focus.
I've seen exact same things that Kirsten has as well. Aberration of starlight. When you have something completely out of focus, it's going to produce very similar things, but those are not the actual image of those things. Those are due to aberration and to being out of focus.
I've seen what the telescope. I see what the telescope produces, but it does not match what NASA produces. So why are they giving us, something quite the opposite? It doesn't. They don't. They don't look like that. Very colorful like NASA has. So.
Kirsten, you want to add upon that? You know what she's referring to? She's referring to a photograph that flat earthers have of these stars that are taken very much out of focus, and so any kind of especially minor disturbance is going to have a dramatic effect. Plus, you also have your spherical aberration, and you have your anything on the lens is going to be blown up, so you're going to have dust on there. Anything that's going to affect it is going to cause it to distort, and so they think that is what the actual planet looks like, and they're calling that resonance because they think it's some kind of plasmic flux of some type. I don't know. I don't have to word it in the flat Earth terminology. Well, something along those lines.
NASA told me that the reason why they twinkle is because it's wind, atmospheric wind or whatever. I'm not buying that bullshit. Sorry. To me, these are celestial bodies. We should take it for what it is. That they're celestial bodies to look up at. They're for signs in the sky, as biblically, prophecies have been, based on. They're just celestial objects.
Okay.
I don't see there's any sphericity to it.
Let's cycle back a bit and address the part about the photos from, let's say, NASA and all that sort of stuff, and then through telescopes as well. So first of all, when you make a telescope, you can test it on an object that you know it's supposed to look like that. So say if you test it on a distant house or a distant tree, you can test your telescope through that to make sure that it works properly and it shows you the same thing that you would see with your eyes. And then once you have that set, you can believe that your telescope is ready and it will show you the right image. Then you can point it up to space and see what the stars look like. So that's what we've done with our telescopes at the observatory. We know that they work in a way that it will show us what we would see with our eyes if we could, you know, zoom in with our eyes. So when we look at these things, this is what they look like in space. So the telescope isn't lying to us. It's showing us what we would see with our eyes if we could zoom in with our eyes, right?
It's my understanding is that the telescope has like several lenses on it.
Depends on what type of telescope, but yes.
Refractor. Yeah, a refractor telescope.
Yep, they have lenses.
They have a couple lenses, right?
Yep.
Okay. So when I came across the video, it was talking about the refractor telescope is creating the image. It's the telescope that's allowing you to see what it wants you to see.
Okay. So with a refractor like that, so it's okay. It's, yes, in a way, it's manipulating the light. So
it's doing some manipulation, a trickery, I would call it, a Newtonian, a Galileo trickery.
Right, okay. But it's the same sort of thing like a camera. Like, so you were saying that if you look at these things through a camera, it's fine, right? Is that what you were saying before?
Yeah, the camera seems to be doing something else with it. It's bringing in focus a little bit so you can see it. But also there's something going on with it itself, the star or a planet.
Okay.
Yeah, it resonates. Are you denying that everything in nature, it resonates, has frequency?
Well, everything has frequency, yeah. I mean, light is frequency.
Would you agree that the stars would have it too? Because, I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes. Huh?
Well, yes. Stars emit light where different wavelengths can be transferred to frequency. So I can describe a light via a frequency, yes.
Okay, well, so when you look through the camera lens, the stars look at almost identical as planets. I don't believe that I think the planets are stars as the ancients, told.
Okay. Well, even in my culture,
they're on a wandering path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even in my culture, my ancestors knew that the planets were planets and that the stars were stars. They knew that they were different and that they behaved in different ways.
So you believe it has frequency, is that correct?
Yes, we've established that before.
And can you explain that to me? Where
the frequency is coming from and my understanding of the frequency?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So like I said before, with light, like a different color of light, let's say red, has a certain wavelength of about 700 nanometers, okay? Red can be described by 700 nanometers, that's the wavelength. You can actually convert that wavelength into a frequency because frequency and wavelength are dependent and can actually give you the speed of light as well. So if we go to a blue light, for example, that's about 400 nanometers. I can also convert that to a frequency. So light itself has frequency. So yes, I would agree, probably in a different way that you're thinking that I'm thinking about frequency, that the stars do have frequency because they emit light, which is a frequency of light.
I had to be great. How are you using frequency, if I can ask, Debbie? I'm kind of curious.
Something that's emitting like a tone, like everything goes off frequency, sound, tone, vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, frequency and wavelength are just inverse of each other. So if you take frequency divided by the wavelength, it'll always give you a constant. We call that constant the speed of light.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's water up there?
We just went from frequency to water.
Coming into
yeah.
this.
How do we get some water from frequency? I didn't see that non sequitur there.
Because I've seen an experiment done where you can create the same pattern using light and water. I don't know if you've ever seen. Can you pull the video up? Because this is like I think everybody should see this.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you link to put them in this?
Yeah, it's the most beautiful video. demonstrating what the stars look like.
Can you?
And
Yeah, send it. Do you have his Facebook, Deb?
no, can
You have my Facebook?
Can somebody like a look? Well, I don't want to get thrown off the panel because I have device issues.
Okay.
Can you give us the name of the video, maybe, or maybe?
Yeah, it's real stars and planets, and you'll see like a frequency pattern of
Okay, yeah, 'cause I know what you're referring to. I don't, but you're literally going back to what we said before, talking about these aberrations because you're out of focus. That's not what a frequency is. A frequency is a measurement of how many time cycles per second you are for a unit time, and the distance between troughs, between either the trough or the crest of a wave. That's what a frequency is. It's based upon the inverse of that. It's actually wavelength is what I just mentioned, but they were directly related to each other. There's a proportionality between wavelength and frequency. They're inversely proportional to each other.
I still think that the telescope is telling you what it wants you to see. It's focusing on the object, but still kind of there's some type of manipulation going on.
But do you know you can do the same thing by looking at a street lamp with a telescope and then taking the ocular and taking it out of, basically take it out of focus, and you can get the same results.
I've never did that. I don't have a telescope.
Well, there you go. Good experiment for you.
Can I just interject here? So, Debbie, are you saying that telescopes have a brain that they change and manipulate what's actually meant to be happening? Are you saying like a telescope has some sort of intelligence?
No, I'm just saying that's doing something to, I don't know.
I think somebody found the video she's talking about. Did you find it, Frankie? Because I think somebody found it in the live feed. I can give it to you on your or at least I can give you the code for it and you can find it from there. There you go. Yeah,
I forgot the uploader.
It's okay.
To me, that the stars are up there. They're in like some type of water atmosphere. I don't think that.
You think that the atmosphere is made of water? Or you think the firmament is above the atmosphere and that's causing it?
Yeah. That's what I think. There's some type of water up there.
And how does the water stay up there?
I have no clue.
That's kind of important.
I don't know. Yeah.
We found the video. It's called Real Planets and Stars.
Yeah, I can't go up there. Yeah, to me that doesn't make the planets don't look like they're spherical. They don't look like they have, like Mars, or it doesn't look like it's a place you can land on. Period.
Okay. Like, all right, cool. But like, let's say with this then, that let's say for argument's sake, the Earth is flat and all the other planets are flat. If we can land on the Earth, then why can't we land on another planet?
It does seem to follow, doesn't it?
I don't think that they're for. I don't think they're for landing. They're not for that. I think that we're in closed system. I don't think that that anybody can get out there to go into space and land on these planets. I mean,
I'm curious if you found out we could. Let's say we actually took you right now and we put you on Mars with suitable, suit and everything, so you don't die because of environmental issues. But if you actually could go to another planet and you realize that everything you've been saying about flat Earth is utterly completely wrong, how would that affect your worldview? How would it affect your religious views? How would it affect your position as a whole, recognizing that everything you've actually said so far is just demonstrably wrong? How would it affect you? Can I ask?
First of all, I wouldn't even get on a rocket to even go and even take it.
Well, I'm with you on that. I wouldn't either.
But I don't see the possibility. I mean, if you think about it going to the speed of it, when Navy jets like pass out.
Well, let's say that it's called a hypothetical. It's hypothetically we could put you on another planet, and you can see that it's round. You can see the Earth. You can see the stars. You can go in orbit around the Earth, whatever it takes. If you knew beyond a doubt,
the Greeks would have loved it. This would have been their fetish fantasy, just to go to these objects. I mean, obviously,
probably, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're named after Zeus, Mars, and all that.
But how would it affect your worldview? I know people today would love that. I mean, I wouldn't. I have no interest in going to another planet, but I know people that would do it in a heartbeat. God bless you. Go do it. Not me. I'm telling you. I like the Earth. I'm afraid of heights. Ladder. I'm done. So, how would it affect your position, though? I mean, we have to reevaluate your entire religious views if you realize that the Earth is not flat?
I knew this. I know that it'll never be possible to get to a planet, so I don't even entertain the thought.
But that's what
I mean,
hypothetical
coming from my
means.
belief.
You can't
nobody's
entertain
going to a
hypothetical.
planet. No, I mean, it's just silly.
Right. No, I'm just curious. I mean,
nonsensical. It's
the
just not
problem
going
with
to happen. We're in closed system. There's nothing getting out. There's
Yeah,
nobody
the
that can
problem
convince me.
without
We've been 3 years into this, and I've yet
But
to see
Deb,
any evidence.
the problem is if you're incapable of having what's called a hypothetical situation and addressing it, then people kind of see that as closed-minded. I can do a hypothetical. You can say, Steve, hey, can you give us a hypothetical situation based upon flat Earth? I'm like, I'll entertain it. Let's do it. It's a hypothetical.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean what you actually
Right.
believe. But anyways,
you
let's
still
get to
have
this
to go
video
back
here.
to the shape of the Earth, though. You still have to go back to the shape of the Earth. You seem to be escaping those.
Well, let's get to the video here.
aspects
So,
of-
what do you got here, Frankie?
No, that's not it.
And let Kirsten do a quick analysis.
Mhm.
All right, let me screen share you. There you go.
Skip through this. Let me see.
Should be on the live feed, at least well enough for them to see.
Mm.
So we're looking at Venus through a basically out of focus
Yeah, that's evident.
telescope.
This is the wrong video. This is the one.
This is real planets and stars.
That's the wrong video.
This is by a Nikon P900, by the way, not a telescope. It's a camera, but still,
Yeah.
principle's the same.
That's Venus. Okay, yeah.
Now, if you put that into focus, it's going to be a completely different image.
Yeah, it might not even be a circular shape.
Yeah, Venus has phases just like the moon does.
Mm.
Is there a backside to it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How can you tell it's spherical?
We've sent
Because
probes
of the
through.
phases
It looks like a disc.
It's the same as
like a disc.
phases, and so it must be circular in that way.
Yeah, there's no possible explanation for the phases of Venus that can be explained on any flat Earth model. It's just not possible.
That's not the video, though. It's not literally it was.
But the principle, well, it may not be the exact video you wanted, but it's kind of what you said. I mean, this is what you're talking about, though. You're saying that you think that's the real shape of Venus?
Yeah, I've seen Venus before. That's what it looks like. Yeah, but it's just that's not what I was requesting.
Okay, if you have another video.
Oh,
Vega. Nice.
Vega's a cool star. Yeah. Now, if I got a chance to go to Vega, I might check it out. That would be pretty nifty, actually.
it looks like a luminary. It's a luminescent object. It can't possibly have terrain.
It's a
That's
star.
a star, right?
It's
Yeah,
a
I know
star.
that's a star. Yeah, I know that is, but it also looks a little bit like the other. Yeah, it looks like Mars too. They all look alike. They just have different.
That's because they're out of focus.
Yeah, that's because they're out of focus, right? And
every single object that you will every single point of light that you will point this camera at in this sort of way will look exactly the same, just with a different color because it is out of focus.
And even with a street lamp, you can do the same thing.
Yeah.
You can do the same thing with your eyeball if you put some pressure on it.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. You can actually see things on your eye if you're looking at
That's
a
Mars.
light.
Can you bring that? Can you
Sure.
bring that back in?
Wait, they got to capture Neptune on the camera? That's crazy.
You're not going to see you're not going to see Neptune with a P900.
We can barely see Neptune with our 16-inch
Right.
telescope.
Yeah, no.
Mars.
I think they saw something different there.
Yeah, I think so too. Neptune is probably around 8 magnitude.
So you think there's
Plus
a
the
rover,
magnitude. Somewhere in
just
that
like
ballpark.
moving around on that thing?
So again,
What, a
they-
Neptune?
Or
Mars?
No, Mars.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sure.
You really think? Oh, wow. Okay. So this thing never malfunctions, right? It just happens.
Oh
to,
yeah,
like,
no,
not
they
get
have
caught in
problems with it.
rocks.
It's malfunctioned.
This is definitely malfunction. Or at least
Yeah.
it's user error in this
They
case.
can't go back and repair it. I mean, so how do they get all these transmission signals all?
They actually use
phones like drop.
Believe it or not, they
Those
actually use
signals drop on our phone.
But Debbie, they actually use dust devils to actually help clean the solar panels of Pathfinder. Believe it or not, on Mars as dust devils, and they actually will use them to try to clean the solar filter. The solar panels. The solar panels are what give the rovers energy, right? Gives them power, and they are basically self-sufficient modules. But they are old. I mean, they've been up there a while. They've been exposed to harsh conditions. They were designed to last only a period of time. I think they've well expected their life expectancy. Have they
Why
not?
does it take a selfie of itself?
Magic.
With a camera.
With a camera, yes, with a camera.
So how far away is the picture? Because to me it looked like it was, I don't know, about maybe 5 feet away.
I mean, like, your icon there is a selfie. It did the same thing. I mean, it doesn't have an arm that you can actually hold the phone out to, but like it has a robotic arm that can put a camera onto.
Oh, it's got a robotic arm.
Yeah.
Put and rotate the camera to it so you can take a selfie.
Oh, I didn't see the robotic arm in the picture, so I don't know.
Well, okay. Well, if I take a selfie with my phone right now, in fact, you know what? I will, just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
If I take a selfie with my phone right now, you won't necessarily see my arm in the photo based on how it's actually being taken. So it doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily have to see the arm to know that it's a selfie. Does that make sense?
You don't have to continue with the video, by the way.
Yeah. What about the pictures that they produced? Humanoids on there. They had tennis shoes, different type of just objects on there. This is like off NASA.gov. Yeah, they came up with pictures like humanoids, like a cave. Just some really bizarre things on Mars. It just kind of looked foolish.
I don't even know what you're referring
you
to.
Didn't see those?
Yeah, I'm a bit confused here.
Pictures that they get back from Mars.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever discovered any kind of a humanoid on Mars. No.
Well, they have these pictures that they claim that's capturing these, tennis shoes.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Don't believe that.
So it's disinformation.
No, I think I know it's not disinformation. It's a matter of not probably understanding what actually is being put out and then filtering it through some kind of flat Earth narrative. Yeah. But anyways, we're gonna, just let you know, we are going well past 2 hours. People are enjoying this. I don't mind keeping this open. I don't mind continuing with this dialogue. People are watching and enjoying it. Happy to keep it going. Just FYI, though, we are going to have an after show. It will be on my channel. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, just go to Steve McRae on YouTube, and most of you guys already are anyways. But it only can hold a certain amount of people, so I've already had a lot of people message me that they want in. I know Prepper, you want to come in. I know Ganesh wants to come in. I'm sure quite a few other people do. So real quick, Deb, how much time do you have tonight? I mean, if we do the after show, we had a pre-show on the Great Debate Community channel. It was having a large amount of people watched it. And now I think that they want an after show. So are you available for that? Do you want to drop by my channel for an after show, or do you want to call it a night? Or do you want to continue this for a little while longer? We're good either way. It's up to you.
Yeah, I think I can go for a little bit as long as my device holds out.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Interruptions yet?
Now we can. Yeah. Are you on a phone, Debbie?
No, I'm on an iPad.
Oh, okay. Do you have a charging thing, or?
Yeah, I do. Okay. Yeah,
I have a question real quick.
Yeah,
before we close out, and this is totally off topic, but I'm just interested. Kirsten, what is your view on life outside of planet Earth?
Whether it exists or just anything.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Do you think aliens do exist?
Okay, honestly, based on how many stars and how many galaxies and how many planets are actually out there in the universe, like they estimate that there are up to 2 trillion galaxies in the universe.
Wow.
Each with billions of stars. And they say for every 10 stars in the universe, there is 1 planet on average.
Wow.
So honestly, yeah.
You heard it here. Aliens confirmed.
Hey now, not confirmed.
I exist. Yeah. I believe they exist too, though. I believe they have to exist.
What a great selfie, by the way. She actually put a selfie on. She actually sent a selfie. It's tweeted out. Go to our Twitter, and she really did do that selfie. It's really there, high quality too.
It's legit.
Straight up legit.
I speak the truth, my friends.
You don't see her arm. You have 1 arm in the photo.
Yeah, I'm actually secretly amputated. Like this arm doesn't exist right now.
Have you seen the video with the cyborg arm, the woman that did with Grant from Mythbusters, where they put the cyborg on her? She's an amputee from the elbow down, and she can actually control the fingers. It was
awesome.
rad. It was amazing.
That's incredible.
It was absolutely incredible. I mean, if we're not in the future now, then I don't know what to say. I mean, that's just amazing.
That was a great hangout, guys.
We all want hoverboards and hover cars.
We can all dream.
Let's kind of go with this a little bit longer since we have 300 people being entertained right now. Let's ask some questions. If you guys want to send some questions to either Kirsten or to Deb or both, send it to us via Twitter. The link is in the video description. Just tweet it out to us. We'll get it to them, and we'll keep it open a little bit longer. And then we'll do an after show. Deb, are you down for the after show? How about Kirsten? Are you down?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we'll do that afterwards.
Okay.
All right. So let's get some questions for these fascinating guests of ours.
I do love questions. Fire away, guys.
I'll start it off. How about the first question? Did you ever figure out how to figure out the grand state of a hydrogen atom with respect to electron orbitals?
I did. Yes.
Awesome.
I have it here in my book. Oh my god, I still have to write it up. My assignment's due on Friday. But
which formula did you use?
Actually, I went into my lecture notes and found the formula. Where was it?
Was it based on the Bohr radius?
Kind of. So it was using like spherical harmonics and stuff like that. Using the what's the term?
I don't know. Why don't you show the work that you're doing here for people to understand? So you guys gonna get a feel of what she does.
You guys see what it is. It looks like gibberish, to be honest.
It really is. It's just basically scribble scrabble.
Literally scribbles.
Can you get?
Because it looks.
Hang on, it's really blurry.
That's fine. I'll bring it closer.
There we go.
So like one page I screwed up, and so I scribbled it all out.
Oh wow!
That big X means that NASA's hiding the information.
But this side should be correct, I think, from last I checked.
Are you using double integrals?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the definition. That's the definition of a expectation value.
Nice. See, smart stuff. Smart stuff.
Is that like Einstein stuff? Is it like Einstein
We're nerding
stuff?
out here. We're allowed to do that. We're allowed to.
My eyes have glazed over.
Okay. I mean,
so, all right. Hey, you know what? I didn't have any questions,
but
so
I can't. It just won't happen. I try, but I just can't.
Yeah. Well, if there's anybody else to ask some questions, now your time, because if not, we're going back to quantum mechanics. Oh, here we go. All right, I got two questions for you. One, ask Debbie, how can she accept flat Earth? And you two, ask Debbie, how can she accept flat Earth on faith and YouTube alone and call everybody else indoctrinated?
That's not how I'd like perceiving flat Earth to be. It's I'm looking for the experiments to prove that there's no curve. There's no measurable curvature, so we can see to measure it.
All right, and the second question, somebody had asked earlier, and I told him I'd try to get it, something Vegas. If you're traveling toward a mountain, why do we see the mountain top before we see the mountain base?
Okay, so
how would that work on flat Earth?
Okay, so if you're traveling like towards a mountain,
yeah, you're gonna see the top of the mountain before you see the base of the mountain.
Okay, so
we can show how that would work on around Earth very easily. But how would we show that?
Oh, okay. So that would be just our perspective. I think that you would like objects disappear bottom first as your distance increases. Correct? I mean that's just the way it goes on our model.
So we see the top first, going toward it, right?
Yeah, you would see. I guess you would see the mountain peak first.
Right. So
and then till it comes into view. So if you're going the opposite, if you're going away from it.
But on a flat Earth, it would all come into view at the same time. You would see the full mountain come into view at the same time, which we don't see.
I'm trying to visualize. I've never. That's a good question.
Yeah, and by the way, just FYI, You are allowed to drink if anybody hears the word perspective. You are allowed to drink on that. Just FYI.
Yeah, I'm trying to get that visual in my mind, and I can't.
Okay. Yeah, no, please.
If you pull
We
something
want
up,
you to visualize this. Matter of fact, I'm
if you
happy that you're actually trying to visualize it.
if you can pull something up, I could maybe just like it'll go, light bulb moment, and I'll understand it. But
Oh, drawings. Oh, we need to rump this
so
in. He loves drawings.
so do you mean like if you're on like on a scenery road and you see a mountain in the distance and you're approaching it and it's getting bigger?
You're going to see the top first rather than it come into all your field of view at once. I mean, it'll be very, if on a flat Earth, it's going to be very small, but you can see the entire mountain. And then as you get closer, the entire mountain is going to get larger. We don't see that. We see the top of the mountain because you're seeing it come over the horizon. And as you're going toward it and you're getting closer to it on that curve, then you see more and more of the mountain.
No, there's no curve. You're just approaching. You're just approaching the mountain, and you're seeing the mountain peak, and therefore, when you go further, the closer your distance is, you're going to see the full mountain of it. And
which is only explainable on a round Earth.
No, I don't know. No, I don't see how I get.
Well, Kirsten, can you draw that for us?
Can you do like a building, something that I'm more familiar with? Because the mountain thing.
Well, what we could do is
some people say it's on a tilt. Some people say that it's on a tilt if like 1 degree improves the globe. I'm like, no, it doesn't tilt.
Kirsten, do you know what I'm talking about? If you just draw an Earth and you draw an object, let's say, I don't know, just below the horizon, can you show her that you're only going to see the tip of it, which is what our expectation would be?
Well, see, in this case, I think the certain numbers I'm not too sure about, but like for every 8 kilometers you go across the Earth drops by 1 kilometer. So say if you have a really tall building that happens to be 8 kilometers tall, but if you're 8 kilometers this way, away from it, you will see only from 1 kilometer upwards. Is that the sort of thing we're going through here?
Okay, so you're seeing a building in the distance, and you're seeing like you're seeing that's partially hidden.
Yeah, so you would only see the top of it, not the base of it, with the globe Earth. So how would you explain that we wouldn't see all of it to start off with?
It's depending on the distance, and your eyes only have limitations. So if you're seeing the building and you're if it's partially hidden, that means that that has disappeared bottom first as your distance decreases away from it.
But why? Why does the bottom decrease first?
Right.
That's the way our eyes work. I've done the experiment looking at a mailbox down my road, and the road is flat, and the mailbox disappears bottom first. All objects disappear bottom first.
But it wouldn't be on a flat Earth. That's the whole point. You're just disproved in flat Earth.
Well, why would it not?
Because in flat Earth, you'd see the mailbox all at once. It'd be a small mailbox, but then it would get larger as you get closer.
Essentially, in the flat Earth model,
you'll see the entire mailbox, but as your distance increases going away from it, the mailbox gets smaller and smaller till it disappears completely.
But the mailbox is not the size of a mountain, right? You're not going to see the mailbox when it gets to 100 miles away. A mountain you can still see. So the mountain, you can see the top of it as you get closer to it.
It would apply the same way.
Well, think about this in your head. If you're on a flat Earth and you're traveling toward a mountain, what's going to happen? You're not going to see the entire mountain at once, right? But on a flat Earth, you would.
Slowly as you approach it, but I'm saying as you move away from it, of course the mountain's going to disappear till it's completely out of view, depending on the distance.
Yes, but why is it the bottom first?
Right, that's the
way your eyeballs work, I guess. I mean, that's just eye perspective. I didn't make
drink.
Sorry. Where eyes work, I didn't make it up.
But the eyes doesn't matter. The light coming, we only can see.
Are you saying that objects don't disappear bottom first, even boats, buildings on water?
No, we all agree upon that. The reason they do is only explainable on a round model. But the reason we see what we see is because light is being received to our eye, and there's only so much light that's going to be in that path. And so if you only see the top of that mountain, it's because the rest of the mountain is blocked by the curvature of the Earth. There's no light from that bottom of the mountain that's reaching our eye.
What about boats when they're on the water and it's completely darkness and you
but you're talking about the mountain, not boats.
There's no light.
Do you understand that?
Yeah, but it still would apply. I mean, to the at night.
Sure, it applies.
Why are you only using like just the daylight?
It'll always apply, but do you agree?
Factor in the sunlight.
But Debbie, do you agree though the mountain can only be explained from what we observe when we look at the mountain, we see the top, can only be observed if the Earth is round. On a flat Earth, that's not what we would see. We would expect that the entire mountain. Okay, I'm just curious because that's what we would expect to see. Kirsten,
No. The mountains. I mean, if you look at a mountain, how long are they? How tall are they? They're on a flat foundation.
Then we would see the entire mountain at once.
Yeah, so let's take that. Let's take this example here that with the mountain. We'll just stick with the mountain for now. Like, it will apply to everything else, of course, but we'll just stick with the mountain for now. Me in Sydney right now in Australia could go to my observatory. I could go to the telescope on a flat Earth. If I point it towards the Himalayas, I should see them. Correct?
What's the location? I'm not familiar with Australia. I know.
That's okay. So
I know a little bit.
Australia on the globe, Earth, say North Pole, South Pole, we're down here, Himalayas up here, like around. So if the Earth is flat, I should be able to see the Himalayas through my telescope, correct?
What's the distance?
Far, very far.
Yeah, what's the distance?
Let's go to Google Maps and find the distance then. Okay.
You're not giving any distances, and I need the distance.
Okay, I'm going to get to the distance, don't worry.
And while you're doing that, the link to the after show, at least the channel, is put in the live feed right now, so you can pop over there and at least have that ready. I haven't got the link set up yet, but go do the notification thing, and you'll get a notification when we do the after show. And yes, everybody's talked to me on the after show, I recognize who you are, and I will add you accordingly.
Can I give a shout outs to everybody in the chat room?
Yes, by all
means. And flat earthers, fellow flat earthers, flat earthites. Yeah.
And I got to give a quick shout out as well. You were on, Debbie, you were on the GeoStriver's channel recently, were you not? GeoStriver, Alex?
I think I commented on his channel.
No, he had you on it. He had you as a guest, didn't he?
No, not yet. I think it's that's not till Sunday.
Oh, it's Friday. Sunday. Okay, I didn't watch it, so I thought it already happened. But when is that? When is this promo it then? Actually, I thought it already happened, but I guess I'm promoting it for Alex. So what day is that happening?
I think it's Friday.
Friday.
Contact me and let me know. How long.
Do you have a time, somewhat an American time, that can be translated to us?
I forgot what time it is. It's
okay. I thought it was 1 p.m. our time in Pacific, but I could be wrong on that. But we will find out. But GeoStriver,
yeah,
he's in Germany, so.
Well, he needs to contact me by phone before I do it, because I want to know how long it's going to be, because I can't I don't know if I could my presentation. I'm trying to get it together and be able to give pictures and things.
That's fine. Yeah, Geo will get with you. He's good on all that. But I recommend everybody to go watch that. GeoStriver is one of the best out there when it comes to talking about and debunking flat Earth. He is very knowledgeable, and he's a chemist actually. So it's his understanding of physics is quite exceptionally well. So yeah, I thought Geo made the link for it, but the link's not there. I don't think so. I can't give the link out. If he makes a new one, I'll be happy to pass it forward. But I think we should start wrapping this up then, if we have no other questions.
Before we do, just going back to the Himalayas thing.
Oh yes, finish that up real quick, please. Yeah.
Sydney to Himalayas is 9,907 kilometers. Okay.
So, what's that in miles?
About 6,000 miles.
Okay, so the target is what, 6,000 miles, the location?
Yeah.
I just remember a mile is about a little over a mile and a half in kilometers, about 1.6.
I can't go. I hate going by kilometers.
I do too. I know, and metric is so much easier to use, and we all use metric in science. But I got to tell you, I just still have affinity toward the standard, system. So shoot me, people.
It feels weird being the odd one out right now.
What do you use?
Okay.
Well, no, because I use metric, and you guys are all familiar with miles instead of kilometers.
I could use either, but just I grew up with the non-metric system. So
okay, so you said you see with a telescope, you see 6,000 miles.
So what I'm saying is, if the Earth is flat, the Himalayas are only about 6,000 miles from where I am right now. So if the Earth is flat, I should be able to see these things with the telescope.
Oh, why do you think that?
Because if the Earth is flat, it's the whole thing before with the mountain and, like, you know, if it's flat, you can see to it. But because the Earth is round, the Earth actually curves downwards by about 700 miles.
Okay, so you're gonna have to put it. You're gonna have to put in the Earth curvature calculator for that, and then another thing is that the telescope only has an optical limitations as well as our eyes. So so you can't see. You're not going to see that far because you have to consider the atmosphere. You know, the water in the atmosphere. I mean, people ask me these questions all the time, and I think it's just ridiculous. Why you can't see from California to New York? I mean, that's just absurd.
New York's below the horizon.
Do you know how far?
Good if you go high enough.
No, because you have obstacles. You guys aren't like
even if there was no other thing on the planet. If the Earth was a marble smooth, you still would not see New York.
You just can't. You just can't see that. The lens is
right, but that's not because the Earth is.
It's
is
because
flat.
there's atmosphere.
No. You could take away the atmosphere. You could take away any obstacles. You can have the most powerful infinite telescope ever devised, and I sitting on the ground at LA, and I pointed toward the west. Excuse me, the east.
It's not going to see that far, 6,000 miles. I mean, wow.
An infinite telescope. An infinite telescope is something that can see an infinite distance. So even with any most powerful infinite telescope, no matter what, there's no light that can strike that telescope because any light emitted from anything in New York is going to be obstructed by the Earth itself.
You're still talking about buildings and trees and everything. You're not. It's just not.
No, I just said if all those things were gone, you removed any obstacle.
Even ignoring
you would have to move maybe remove the water and everything in there. You would have
you can move anything. You can make it as smooth as glass.
I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to see the experiment. Can you?
It's not an experiment. It's basically we can demonstrate this with the you can experiment. You can use a bowling ball or something or a basketball. You can see if something is on one side of that basketball. You're not going to see it from the other side.
Using a telescope on the ground, my understanding of it is that you can't see that far. You're not going to be able to see 6,000 miles.
Want to guess how far I've actually seen with the telescope?
Say that again.
Billions of light years.
Try and guess how far I have seen with a telescope.
Oh, you mean space?
Yeah, try and guess how far.
Those are your calculations of your whatever star.
I'm going to say 13.4.
13.4.
You can't prove that though.
Billion light years.
You can't prove that. You can't prove that.
I can confirm that I have seen an object 13 million light years away.
You don't know if that's far. How did you come to that conclusion?
Well, we've seen there are further, but I mean, you're talking about an optical telescope.
How did you come to that conclusion of clocking that distance?
Well, we'll get into that later in the after, I think, because that's going to require probably longer than we got. But we can show you how these things are actually done if you're really interested.
I have another question too about about we're seeing stars and how come there's no parallax and there's no because
there is parallax.
There is parallax. We can see parallax.
And exactly, can you explain that?
Yeah, we will. All right, so let's kind of wrap this up because this is kind of getting longer than what we usually have for our non sequitur show. So I do want to thank everybody for joining. We had an amazing audience. We had a lot of people asking some pretty great questions. I do want to thank our guests, Debbie D and Kirsten B. Their links will be added to this video afterwards as soon as I get whatever they wanted me to add to it. Let's go ahead and kind of wrap it up, and both of them can kind of give their 2-minute closing discussional speech, as I guess you can say. And Debbie, why don't you go first, and then we'll have Kirsten, because Kirsten started first.
Okay, I want to thank you for having me, and just everybody, I think that just question the scientists and go look at the flat Earth research, go look into ancient cosmology, go into the history of the ball, and look into to NASA since their program. I just look at everything. Don't just poo-poo on it, so to speak. So just look at everything and all the experiments that's being done. There's no curvature that's been found. It's my understanding.
Kirsten, you want to wrap it up for us and take us out?
Yeah, well, first of all, from my end, thank you, Debbie, for having such a great conversation with me today. I really enjoyed discussing the flat Earth and globe Earth theories with you. It was really, I feel like we saw each other eye to eye and we were able to actually have a solid scientific discussion about this thing. And I really thank you for that and this experience. And thank you to Non Sequitur for hosting us as well. This was really fun. And for my part, I'd just like to say, honestly the same as Debbie. Go and read all of the evidence that you can see. Find textbooks, things online. Although I would trust textbooks a bit more, but like go read, look at the evidence yourself, and come to your own conclusion of what you think there could be. Do your own experiments, and honestly, be a scientist, because science is freaking cool.
Exactly, absolutely. You know, you have God-given senses been given to you. Use those as your science. Don't rely on. I mean, to me, don't rely on you know, what the men say.
Yeah, I think we all agree science is really cool.
Of science.
And science is really hard, and it takes a lot of study. I'm envious. You saw with Kirsten how to study, and you know, I can't say I got to that level, but I did have to do a lot of this type of stuff, and it is not easy. It does take a lot of work, and I recommend anybody go do their own research and use the science and use the math and use the physics. And I guarantee it, if you do your math and you learn your physics, there is only one inescapable conclusion, and that is the Earth is round. But Debbie, I do appreciate you coming on. We will have the after show on my channel. Give us about 15-20 minutes to set it up. It is invite only, but that doesn't mean you can't come in. You just have to message me, and I will get you the link, and we will go from there. But anyways, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Amazing discussion like we usually have, and I'm very, very happy that we were able to show people that this doesn't have to turn to a shit show when you're talking about flat Earth. So thank you to the both of you for that. And with that, I bid you good night.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye, Chris.